Chapter 361, Perfection, Part 1. The lava prisoner lay at the end of the huge ravine, staring in disbelief at the black-clad, black-haired man who had appeared in the distance. A mere cultivator from the cage and capable of this much strength, it thought. Then it felt the suppressive seal that ran through its body, soul, and life core loosen just a fraction. Even that slight slackening let a part of its originally vast power break free. Strength surged through it. Its vitality swelled. Its chest, which had been constricted by the seal, relaxed. The two wardens of the dark sacred world have loosened the seal a little, the lava prisoner realized. As a high-level origin life, it was far from stupid. It guessed their intent immediately. They're treating me as a tool to temper that cultivator. Hatred boiled in the lava prisoner's heart. If I get the chance, I'll kill that cultivator completely. Those two wardens will be furious, and the cultivator camp's higher-ups will punish them. It saw no hope for itself and wanted only vengeance against the cultivator camp. If this cultivator has a doppelganger technique, I can't do anything, but intelligence says most in the cage don't possess one. I must find an opportunity to kill this genius cultivator in one blow. From high in the sky, Ji watched the scene unfold. The stronger its hatred, the greater the threat it poses to Luo Feng, he observed. Yifei smiled. Luo Feng's path and life body are exceptionally vast. Even if the Hunyuan prisoner severely injures him, the chance of actually killing this doppelganger is slim. If the doppelganger is destroyed, though, it will only spur Luo Feng onward. They hoped the fight would drive Luo Feng to breakthrough. Boom! Through a rift in the heavens and earth, Luo Feng's figure flashed forward and stood before the lava prisoner. He raised an arm and brought it down like a blade. The power of creation and destruction cleaved through everything, ripping open the membrane of heaven and earth itself. So fast! The lava prisoner, still bound by the seal and unable to fly, could only turn slowly. It took the blow on its shoulder. Luo Feng's strike drove the bulk of its body deep into the ground. Most of it was buried, only its chest and head remaining above the surface. The lava prisoner grinned, revealing jagged rows of teeth like a tangled thicket. Stronger? Luo Feng noticed immediately. His first palm strike had sent the Hunyuan prisoner flying with no meaningful resistance. With this follow-up chop, the lava prisoner endured without injury. "You cultivator are a bit weak," it taunted. "If I weren't sealed, I could crush you with a finger." 8 rocky arms suddenly surged from its torso and lashed out in unison. Luo Feng vanished like a bubble. The arms struck empty air. The lava prisoner frowned. Illusory chains infused its limbs, slowing them. Even an 8-armed surprise attack couldn't touch this cultivator. Luo Feng unleashed creation and destruction reincarnation. In an instant, more than 10 Luo Fengs appeared, raining blows in a relentless tide from every direction, from the front, the rear, above. Palms, fists, claws, each technique carried the force of the primal chaos life-death Tao. Luo Feng used his own arms as weapons, each strike building on the momentum of the last. Like a cycle of creation and destruction, the vitality intensified while the destructive aura grew ever more fearsome. Tens of thousands of strikes followed in the blink of an eye. Each blow drew on as much force as he could muster from his 1.2 billion-fold larger body. Under this extreme exertion, his bodily control improved yet again. The lava prisoner's movements were too slow, it could not touch him, and it was pummeled by tens of thousands of strikes, each one sounding like the roar of heaven and earth. Lava-like blood spattered from the lava prisoner's mouth. Deep gashes crisscrossed its body, but the wounds sealed as the lava flowed and healed them. It sneered, unbothered. "You hit me over 35,000 times and that's all the damage? Now the injuries are gone." Whoosh! Luo Feng shifted, and a gray-green long spear sprang into his hand, one of the creation and destruction secret treasures he'd purchased after arriving in the dark sacred world. With his current realm and his study of the sky-rending blade, he could draw even more latent power from the spear. Boom! The spear shot forward, trembling as secret patterns flared along its length. Its terrible force sought to pierce the lava prisoner's heart. The spear struck the monster's chest. The lava prisoner's body was massive and dense. The weapon punched through half its breadth and was yanked free, only to stab in a second time. During the second penetration, an invisible force inside the lava prisoner wrapped around the spear, hindering Luo Feng's pull. Two of its arms shot up and clasped the spear shaft. "You can't escape," it snarled. "Killing you in close quarters is still troublesome." Luo Feng's figure flickered to a distance. He didn't pull the spear back. He smiled slightly and unleashed the limitless blood sea, letting it spread across the surrounding land. Deep within that sea were two formation diagrams and a black tower, three creation and destruction treasures he'd bought and stored. Luo Feng activated them together. The three combined, two formations and the tower, synchronized with the undying blood sea. Their power merged, the blood sea grand formation. The blood sea surged. Though the lava prisoner towered over the landscape, the formations enveloped and bound it. The prisoner felt layered constraints everywhere. Even swinging its 8 arms drained enormous effort, barely producing 2 or 3/10 of its strength. How can a cultivator from the cage have such a vast body, such terrifying energy reserves, almost comparable to some high-level origin life? The lava prisoner thought, panic beginning to prickle. Though it was itself a formidable high-level origin life, the seal left it shackled. Against Luo Feng, who now called upon so many treasures, it was helpless. "My path of creation and destruction leans life with destruction secondary. In close combat, my raw destructive power is still a little lacking," Luo Feng reflected. "Using secret treasures and formations to exploit the advantages of my life body is my strongest state right now." The lava prisoner had appeared in the dark sacred world for more than 100 epochs and had once drawn huge numbers of challengers, but it had always been unbeatable. Over time, those numbers dwindled. Now only about 1,000 cultivators remained in the area. God Emperor Luo Feng. God Emperor Luo Feng has made his move. With one palm, he gravely wounded that Hunyuan prisoner. They watched the battle with excitement. Finally, someone could contend with the Hunyuan prisoner, and it was a one-on-one suppression. "What a powerful formation," they murmured. The limitless blood sea wrapped tighter, and the lava prisoner's struggles grew weaker. Even Dragon 9 Dao Lord, with tens of thousands cooperating, couldn't threaten this Hunyuan prisoner, one said. Earlier, there were over 100,000 attackers, but their scattered strikes failed. God Emperor Luo Feng can suppress it alone. Is he stronger than hundreds of thousands of cultivators? There has never been an invincible like this in the dark sacred world's records. They didn't know the whole truth. Among fusion path cultivators, Luo Feng was exceptional. He did not pursue a balance of creation and destruction. He had taken the direction of the Star Tower blood scale, pushing the life body to extremes to make it vast beyond measure. The path was harder, but its power surpassed ordinary fusion practitioners. The lava prisoner sank further into the blood sea, its struggles fading. Within the formation, it suddenly saw a huge alchemical furnace appear, its lid open. Not good. It tried to resist, but resistance was futile. Collect. The formation pulled the lava prisoner into the furnace, and the lid slammed shut. Of the many secret treasures Luo Feng owned, the alchemical furnace was the most terrifying at refining and suppressing enemies. The limitless blood sea stilled. Luo Feng sat cross-legged on the surface of the sea and watched the floating furnace. Its body was a deep green. When he activated it, intertwining black and green sigils danced across the metal. The alchemical furnace began refining the lava prisoner inside. "This cultivator is troublesome," the lava prisoner thought. It had meant to hide part of its strength and strike at a critical moment, but within the blood sea formation, its power had been constricted until it was dragged into the furnace. High above, Yifei frowned as she watched. "Gi, let this lava prisoner's strength increase further," she said. "It poses no threat to Luo Feng at all." "If its power increases too much, contamination may occur," Gay warned. "As long as its soul is fully sealed, a small power contamination won't matter," Yifei replied. Ji nodded. Soul contamination would be the worst, but minor power seepage could be tolerated. "This Luo Feng is too strong," Jay muttered. "I chose the Hunyuan prisoner with the strongest body, yet he's forced me to relax the seal a little." He touched a talisman and carefully loosened the restraining charm further. This time, the release crossed a threshold. A trace of the lava prisoner's true high-level origin life essence would bleed out. Even a fragment of that power was contaminating to god emperors. Hmm? Luo Feng, meditating above the blood sea as the furnace worked, suddenly felt the struggle inside the alchemical furnace intensify rapidly. Chapter 362, Perfection, Part 2. How is this possible? Luo Feng stared in disbelief. Even if the lava prisoner's strength had increased several-fold, escaping the pill furnace seemed impossible, yet the resistance inside the furnace now shocked him. He poured all his will into suppression, but the resistance spiked wildly. In a few breaths, boom, the furnace lid was pushed open and a blinding figure burst out. The lava prisoner had shrunk slightly, now wrapped in a sheet of golden, flowing fire that radiated a palpable threat. Something's not right, Luo Feng muttered, looking up. The lava prisoner smiled cruelly. You lowly cultivator, let me show you the true power of a high-level origin life. He blurred into a golden afterimage and lunged. Luo Feng met him without hesitation. He extended his right hand, and a long gray spear materialized. The weapon suffused with the creation and destruction art. Destroy! The lava prisoner punched. His fist carried a force that seemed capable of tearing heaven and earth. It struck the spear. The impact ran along the shaft into Luo Feng's body, setting him trembling. His right hand, clutching the spear, crumbled into dust. His arm cracked and splintered with the sound of breaking stone. It could break my arm through a secret treasure? Luo Feng's mind raced. He had studied many high-level Hunyuan bloodlines and had long suspected the true scale of their power. The prisoner's previous form had been sealed, slow, clumsy, limited. Now, even using only a trace of his true power, the difference was absolute. If he'd used more than a trace, I'd be finished in an instant. The presentation of power itself was different in kind. Below high-level Hunyuan, there is no distance, no standing, Luo Feng thought, and his body melted into the limitless blood sea. The blood sea array activated fully. The lava prisoner, burning like a miniature sun, dove into the sea. The blood sea's waters were corroded and annihilated wherever the golden flame touched. Even with the undying heart's augmentation and the massive array in place, the limitless blood sea burned and gave ground. Luo Feng's boundless ice continent was meeting an inexhaustible sun, small in scale, devastating in effect. There was no way to win in a straight fight. Even with a secret treasure, my arm just broke. In 10 moves, I'd be torn to pieces. Even the array would only be consumed. Escape was possible, splitting the blood sea into innumerable clones and breaking through the world's cracks, but Luo Feng dismissed that option. He had cultivated to this realm to find opponents strong enough to force growth. Even if this clone were annihilated, the copy in the large Hunyuan Hall could recover to 1.2 billion times its power. This battle would be either triumph or death. His fighting spirit flared. What use were a few secret treasures compared to mastering the primal chaos life-death Tao? Come, he decided. The limitless blood sea roared, risking further annihilation of its own waters as it hurled monstrous waves and constructs. Dragons of blood, binding chains, at the lava prisoner. The prisoner merely hovered, unbothered, as the seawater drew near and dissolved into ash beneath his golden fire. The flames not only burned but absorbed the annihilated blood sea energy. A seal and suppression limited him to a mere trace of fundamental power, yet even that was enough. Humph! High-level Hunyuan. The lava prisoner sneered as he hovered, golden flame eating through the sea and polluting it. For you cultivators inside the cage, the difference is fundamental. Even a trace will be enough. Luo Feng monitored the body in array. The undying blood sea body had been annihilated by only 0.3%, but was 2.1% polluted. The corrosive influence of high-level Hunyuan power left him unable to mobilize his blood sea fully. His body's performance faltered. Up in the sky, the silver-haired Xingje frowned. The Hunyuan prisoner can mobilize a trace of fundamental high-level Hunyuan power. Even Luo Feng can't withstand it. Yifei, robed in fiery red, watched the one-sided battle with a worried crease between her brows. Luo Feng had become terrifyingly strong inside the cage, so their decision to apply high-level Hunyuan power was deliberate. They had sealed the prisoner's core and soul. Only a careful, slight release of fundamental power was allowed. Even that much was overwhelming. From the distant stands, cultivators murmured. For generations they had besieged him because the Hunyuan prisoner had been slow and earthbound. Now he could fly, and fly fast, becoming a much greater threat. Rumors and reinforcements were already on the way. GK God Emperor, Dragon 9 Dao Lord, and others making haste. The limitless blood sea stilled and ceased attacking. The lava prisoner laughed. Stopped? Giving up? He hovered as golden flame crept across the surface, burning and corrupting the sea. Deep within the blood sea, Luo Feng sat cross-legged and concentrated. Though only 3.1% of the body had been annihilated, 59% of it was polluted, an untenable ratio. The polluted portion resisted, making control wildly inefficient. Attacks were useless now. The pollution kept growing. If it continued, this clone would be finished. This was not a mere body. It was a massive clone carrying many creation and destruction treasures and backed by an energy reserve of 1.2 billion times. That a trace of high-level Hunyuan power could so quickly taint him. Legend said an unsealed, newly breakthrough high-level origin life could even pollute the soul. But if mind and will could leap out of the cage, the pollution could be suppressed and expelled. Yuan Shang, the palace master, had once encountered just such a case. So this was only slight pollution from high-level Hunyuan power. It should be easier to root out, suppress it, expel it. Luo Feng shut out everything else. He focused every thread of mental energy on the pollution. The golden flames kept burning, consuming life and consciousness. He chanted inside, "Suppress, expel." Under the dual threat of annihilation and pollution, he pushed his mind to the limit. Then he felt it, a subtle shift in his entire mind and consciousness system. Life has instincts. Every life unit in his vast body carried a fierce life spirituality. Under peril, those instincts now overrode all other drives. Countless life units reflexively synchronized, the mental network's operation changing in a tiny but crucial way. He grasped it. He had found the touch, the mode of operation he had been searching for, the way the mind could integrate and function more perfectly. If he could lock this method into memory, he could reproduce it at will. Boom. Luo Feng actively steered his mind and consciousness to operate by that mode. Instantly, coherence surged. Every life unit's mental power integrated more efficiently. The vast web of consciousness grew section by section. The meridians of thought strengthened until a complete, unprecedented mind and will emerged. Boom. His mind and will shattered the cage. Freedom flooded him. The will that leaped free spread through his entire body and took perfect command. The trace of golden fire pollution was weak before this unbounded will. It was expelled without a trace. Luo Feng laughed, triumphant. He felt unrivaled joy. With his mind and consciousness now perfectly commanding the vast blood sea body, everything felt effortless, only a sliver of mental power required to direct the whole. In this state, while manipulating such a physical form with finesse, he could still unleash 10 or 8 secret treasures without strain. My path of creation and destruction, within the cage, has finally reached perfection, Luo Feng murmured, exhilarated. Gratitude flickered through him for the generous rewards from the 2 old alliance leaders, Final Solution Yu and Very. Their gifts had helped him reach this breakthrough. Chapter 363, The Way of Birth and Death of the Semi-Hunyuan, Primal Chaos, Life-Death Tao. Luo Feng's Primal Chaos Life-Death Tao pursued an immensely vast body, so a fully developed mind and consciousness system had become indispensable. From many Hunyuan bloodlines, it was clear that even skyborn mixed source lives, the so-called low-level Hunyuan lives, lacked a complete mind and consciousness system. Only among high-level Hunyuan lives did those with extremely large bodies evolve such a system. It was vast, intricate, and harder to master than most high-level Hunyuan bloodlines. With Luo Feng's comprehension and the aid of rare treasures, it had still taken him over 5,000 eras to fashion a mind and consciousness system that fit him. For comparison, he had only cultivated in the 9 Rivers sacred world for a little over 2,000 eras. My mind and consciousness system has reached this stage. My spiritual will has escaped the cage, he thought. But the system still has a broader scope to grow. If I want to control an even larger world-level Hunyuan body, or a lord-level body, the requirements will be even higher. Inside the cage, his system could be considered perfect. Outside, it was still nascent. He tested it anyway. With a single thought, every unit of power in his vast body bent perfectly to his will. His vitality and life-sustaining functions became even more terrifying. The 3.2% of his power that had been annihilated recovered instantly. His energy reserve returned to the 1.2 billion-fold level. This was his body in its perfected state. My control over my body has reached an inconceivable level, Luo Feng realized. As long as my body's damage doesn't exceed 30%, it can recover within a few breaths. He was a little astonished. The path of creation and destruction body, focused on life, combined with a perfected mind and consciousness system. Together, they conferred unimaginable vitality. My path is correct, he told himself. To kill my enemies, I must first be immortal. If the enemy cannot harm me, I can unleash the full power of my massive body and lay waste to them without restraint. Even after witnessing the highest destructive profundities contained in the sky-rending blade, Luo Feng remained unmoved. Destruction was only a method to ensure the safety of life. Life itself must come first. Lava Prisoner floated above the blood sea, faint golden flames flickering across its surface. Its expression twitched with surprise. "How is this possible?" it muttered. It felt its corrupting force swept aside in an instant, driven off by the power of a spiritual will that had likewise escaped the cage. The limitlessly vast blood sea instantly condensed and merged into a black-clothed, black-haired man. Previously, Luo Feng had fought using the blood sea formation because, even with a 1.2 billion-fold energy reserve, he could not fully unleash it. The formation had helped direct his power. Now, having perfect control over every unit of life, he no longer needed a formation. His mind and consciousness system was the perfect formation, commanding every particle of power. "Hunyuan Prisoner, I still have to thank you for helping me take this step," Luo Feng said. "Took this step?" Lava Prisoner sneered. "No matter how much you've advanced, you haven't escaped the cage. You still have no power to resist me." "Is that so?" Luo Feng produced the pill furnace in his hand and gripped one of its legs. The pill furnace could refine enemies, but it could also smash them. Its own profound patterns contained a crushing force. Luo Feng judged it the most suitable weapon for his current body. Lava Prisoner's disdain hardened. Even the tiniest trace of high-level Hunyuan power made a qualitative difference. It flashed into golden flames and lunged. "Extinguish!" Luo Feng cried, and slammed the pill furnace downward. At that moment, every ounce of his 1.2 billion-fold energy reserve converged. The pill furnace's pattern surged. As Luo Feng swung, heaven and earth, even space-time itself, were torn and distorted, like the forging of a world. The enormous furnace descended upon Lava Prisoner. Lava Prisoner did not dodge. It met the blow with 8 furious arms. To its shock, the pill furnace's assault suppressed it. The furnace crushed its arms and smashed into its head. The last time they had clashed, Luo Feng's palm had been annihilated and his arm broken. Lava Prisoner had been overwhelmingly superior. Now everything had reversed. Luo Feng held the decisive advantage. The furnace slammed Lava Prisoner into the ground. The earth heaved and rippled like water across an endless expanse, forcing the thousand-some cultivators watching from afar to hastily retreat farther away. Lava Prisoner fell into a deep pit, disbelief etched across its face. How can a life inside the cage be this strong? Compared with before, the amount of energy Luo Feng could precisely control had increased roughly tenfold. Moreover, with his path of creation and destruction perfected and his spiritual will freed, the pill furnace's profound patterns now released far greater force. In raw power, his strength had risen by dozens of times. Lava Prisoner could command a trace of high-level Hunyuan power, but it was nothing against Luo Feng's new level. Luo Feng stepped through the spatial rift and loomed over Lava Prisoner, raising the pill furnace and bringing it down again and again, boom after boom, each strike like the creation of heaven and earth. The watching cultivators saw the ground repeatedly tremble. In the center, only Luo Feng's figure furiously smashing was visible. Lava Prisoner did not counterattack. Dragon 9 Dao Lord and GK God Emperor arrived at the battlefield in a flying boat that traversed short space distances at extreme speed. They came upon Luo Feng battering Lava Prisoner and exchanged shocked glances. Every strike distorted and shattered the surrounding heaven and earth. The dark sacred world, where space-time was normally incredibly stable, seemed to become fragile under his blows. "Has Luo Feng become a high-level Hunyuan life?" GK God Emperor whispered. "I feel like touching him would undo me." I don't know, the Dragon Nine Dao Lord said, bewildered. Above them, a silver-haired man with silver brows and a woman in a fiery red robe watched from on high, equally stunned. The Hunyuan prisoner can't resist at all. He's being beaten to death, the woman murmured. A life inside the cage is about to kill a Hunyuan prisoner who can unleash a trace of high-level Hunyuan power. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it, the silver-haired man said in admiration. They had never heard of anyone inside the cage becoming this strong. This is unprecedented. Oh, that prisoner is dead, Sige said with a calm tone. Luo Feng didn't hold back. Yifei smiled. Let's go meet brother Luo Feng. Luo Feng smashed the pill furnace hundreds of times until Lava Prisoner was reduced to pieces and its life core shattered. Only then did he stop. He felt a surge of satisfaction. He had no intention of keeping a Hunyuan prisoner alive. Better to be rid of them than to obtain and refine their bloodline. Against the hostile Eternal Origin life camp, he had no pity. The 1,000+ cultivators in the distance and the newly arrived Dragon Nine Dao Lord and GK God Emperor were terrified. Luo Feng looked toward the newcomers and smiled in greeting. Congratulations, brother Luo Feng, both Dragon Nine Dao Lord and GK God Emperor said. They weren't entirely certain of Luo Feng's exact state, but his undeniable breakthrough was obvious. Two figures then descended, the silver-haired, silver-browed man and the woman in a fiery red robe. Their auras were vast and remote, truly high-level Hunyuan lives. They smiled as they landed and introduced themselves. I am Sige, the silver-haired man said. I am Yi Feia, the woman added. We are the town defenders of the dark sacred world. Luo Feng greets the two town defenders. Luo Feng replied, bowing. We've been observing brother Luo Feng, Yi Feia said. Today you've finally broken through and achieved the primal chaos life-death Dao. Congratulations. Luo Feng was slightly surprised. Do the two town defenders know that I cultivate the path of creation and destruction? Sige nodded. When you fought Secret Ruin God Emperor and the others last time, Yi Feia and I reported to the Lord. The Lord even descended once to carefully observe you, but at that time your path of creation and destruction was still incomplete, so you were not brought in. So that was why the Lord had come down before. Luo Feng had once wondered why such a powerful cultivator had not been recruited. Now he understood. The Lord you mentioned? He asked. Our dark sacred world belongs to Lord Jin, the earliest Lord, Sige explained. This world was created by Lord Jin. Later, new lords were born, and territories were redrawn, and this place came under Senior Yuan. Every time a lord is born, territories are redivided, Yi Feia added. We have already reported your breakthrough to Senior Yuan. We believe he will come to bring you in soon. Let us wait in the Hunyuan Hall. Senior Yuan usually descends there. Luo Feng nodded and waved his hand to disperse Lava Prisoner's remains. Sige and Yi Feia watched with complex expressions. They had a premonition that Luo Feng, already so fearsome within the cage, would become extraordinary once he escaped it. With a thought, they transported Luo Feng across a vast span to the Great Hunyuan Hall. Sige and Yi Feia treated him with humility, hosting food and wine in his honor. Ever since brother Luo Feng arrived in the dark sacred world, we've observed you, Sige said. When we discovered your profound foundation, we released a Hunyuan prisoner to help you along. So it was you who helped me, Luo Feng said, surprised and grateful. If not for you, I don't know how much longer it would have taken to break through. You have tremendous comprehension and potential, Yi Feia replied. Even without our help, it wouldn't have taken long. Your potential far surpasses ours, Sige said. Your future will exceed ours as well. Now that I've reached the primal chaos life-death Dao, what comes next? Luo Feng asked. We can't guide you further, Sige answered with a smile. Wait patiently. When the Lord brings you in, he will naturally point you to the best path. They knew the usual fate of those who fused bloodlines. Refining a Hunyuan bloodline to become a world-level Hunyuan life carried its own drawbacks. Those who could reach a world-level state without refining a bloodline often had even greater potential. So they did not presume to give more than general counsel. At that moment, an invisible fluctuation descended, familiar, like the operation of a source world origin, and an old man appeared. Senior Yuan, Luo Feng recognized him instantly. It was the second time he'd seen Senior Yuan. He rose and bowed. Sige and Yifei showed even greater respect. Senior Yuan looked at Luo Feng and smiled with approval. Not bad. Chapter 364, The Original Place. Senior Yuan had been in a foul mood lately. The Eternal Origin Life Camp was resolved to annihilate the Cultivator Camp at any cost. Worlds were falling, whole world clusters were being swallowed, countless source worlds devoured, and innumerable lives lost. As the most renowned lord in the Cultivator Camp, Senior Yuan could hardly be cheerful. Even with his main combat clone fighting relentlessly, the gap between the two sides was simply too great. Luo Feng. Senior Yuan regarded the young man before him, his expression unusually grave, but he still allowed a rare word of praise. You are the 93rd cultivator in our history to reach the half-step fusion Dao. Hearing that, Luo Feng finally understood how rare such a status was. The cultivator territory was vast, spanning innumerable world clusters, and a history so ancient that ordinary cultivators who had not escaped the cage could not fathom it. Across its endless ages, fewer than 100 people had ever reached Luo Feng's level. Your spiritual will has also escaped the cage, Senior Yuan added. To possess both is even rarer. Reaching world-level Hunyuan won't be difficult for you. Senior Yuan took comfort in the emergence of an outstanding junior, but it did nothing to change the larger crisis. Even 10 world-level Hunyuan wouldn't alter the course of the war. When the cultivator camp had been weaker, their lords had been tolerated despite being a nuisance. Now that balance was gone. Long ago, before memory, all source worlds had been food for the skyborn mixed source life. That was the darkest period for cultivators. Each devoured source world was an extinction event for countless lives. Whenever a source world was consumed, the infinite mixed origin space nurtured a new one. Food for the skyborn life was abundant, and they had grown used to it. Then the first Hunyuan Lord appeared, Senior Yuan himself. He mastered the highest powers of the infinite mixed origin space, held countless clones, and was effectively undying. With his might and authority, he forced a recognition from the progenitors of the Skyborn camp and negotiated peace. Over endless ages, however, more lords emerged, their territories grew, and conflicts intensified. Wars had come and gone. The lords had even slain more than 10 Hunyuan ancestors in succession. But this war was the greatest of all. The Eternal Origin Life Camp launched an all-out campaign, and the lords were forced to resist desperately. Luo Feng, the cultivators who were guided before, were all sent to the initial land, Senior Yuan said with a bitter smile. The initial land is one of our core strongholds. I'll take you there now. Thank you, Senior Yuan. Luo Feng bowed. Let's go. Senior Yuan waved, and they departed. Gay and Fia watched them leave with respect. Next time we see fellow Taoist Luo Feng, he might already be a world-level Hunyuan, Guy mused. I wonder if the war will be over by then, Fia added. Senior Yuan moved through infinite mixed origin space at tremendous speed, far beyond Luo Feng's usual teleportation. The scenery blurred and twisted. Source worlds became indistinct streaks. For the 2 hours of their travel, Senior Yuan said nothing. Luo Feng didn't interrupt. He understood that while Senior Yuan carried him, his other clones were probably occupied elsewhere. We've arrived, Senior Yuan said at last. The initial land was born within the infinite mixed origin space and has been refined and reinforced by several of us lords. Later, the Starlight Lord moved it to a hidden location. As they passed through the chaotic folds of space, Senior Yuan smiled faintly when he mentioned Xingmang. Xingmang is the foremost master of space-time in the infinite mixed origin space. The hiding place he found is extremely difficult for the Eternal Origin Life Camp to locate, no matter what means they try. Guiding Luo Feng through layers of spatial distortions, Senior Yuan finally brought them into a calm, stable region. Luo Feng looked around and saw a vast, tranquil land where energy was so rich it had condensed into soil and rock, formed flora, and even pooled as liquid water. The energy here far exceeded that of the cultivation caves in the large Hunyuan Hall. The initial land provides ample energy even for the lords, Senior Yuan said. It's even easier to supply other cultivators here. Luo Feng saw powerful figures flying through the sky, beings who had escaped the cage. In the initial land, besides those of you on the verge of escaping the cage, there are over 80 million high-level Hunyuan lives, 237 world-level Hunyuan, and 7 lords, Senior Yuan told him. Every cultivator who has escaped the cage has a clone here as long as they are alive. These are the powerhouses of our cultivator camp, Senior Yuan continued. Luo Feng committed the numbers to memory. Over 80 million high-level Hunyuan, 237 world-level Hunyuan, and 7 lords. This was the full strength concentrated in the initial land. Within our territory, many skyborn mixed source life also live, Senior Yuan said. We captured many in past wars. Luo Feng nodded. The cultivator territory's expanse meant the skyborn population must be enormous. Those skyborn who resisted became cultivation resources, Senior Yuan explained. The rest surrendered. Among the surrendered, there are over 50 billion high-level Hunyuan and 137 world-level Hunyuan. Luo Feng started. Over 50 billion? Senior Yuan sighed. That is the terrifying aspect of the skyborn mixed source life. They are the largest people in the infinite mixed origin space, spread everywhere. Those who surrendered to us are only a tiny minority. But that tiny minority still numbered more than 50 billion high-level Hunyuan and 137 world-level Hunyuan. Their numbers are immense. The counts of high-level lives, world-level Hunyuan, and Hunyuan ancestors are staggering, Senior Yuan said, shaking his head. For those who surrendered, we refined and controlled their life cores. If they serve obediently, they live. Betrayal means immediate execution. Luo Feng nodded. The policy was clear. Refine them into servants, and death for traitors. The number of true cultivator powerhouses on our side is too small, Senior Yuan said, looking at Luo Feng. We cannot be merciful to the enemy. I understand, Luo Feng replied. If our camp is completely defeated and all territories fall, this initial land will be our last hope, Senior Yuan said softly. Luo Feng understood then that Senior Yuan and the other lords were already preparing for the worst. If territories were lost, all cultivators who had escaped the cage and the finest of their ranks would gather here and slowly rebuild. Over vast time, perhaps a few new lords might appear and reclaim lost ground. Senior Yuan, has it come to that? Luo Feng asked quietly, thinking of his homeland, the origin continent, and his family. It won't be hard for you to reach world-level Hunyuan, Senior Yuan said, regarding him. You'll be a core member of our camp. I won't hide that. But even if more of you become world-level Hunyuan, it won't change the outcome. This war is being decided by the 7 lords. One side was the largest people in the infinite mixed origin space. The other consisted of 7 lords, each wielding supreme power. Now, almost the entire space watched the war. As for your home source world, Senior Yuan continued, when a world cluster falls, the Eternal Origin Life Camp will prioritize attacking the source world where the lord of that source world resides. Your home will be high on their list. Luo Feng's heart tightened. We will try to relocate some of your clansmen if possible, Senior Yuan said. But for countless source worlds, we simply don't have the means. Senior Yuan treated Luo Feng already as a future world-level Hunyuan, someone possessing both a half-step fusion Dao and a spiritual will that escaped the cage, had a good chance of developing a world-level Hunyuan bloodline. As they flew across the initial land, Senior Yuan explained, the lords are busy. The initial land is managed day to day by the world-level Hunyuan. You haven't escaped the cage yet, so you don't need to take on tasks. Your only job here is to cultivate. That Hunyuan island ahead is where all cultivators who haven't escaped the cage reside, Senior Yuan said, pointing. There are over 80,000 half-primordial origin cultivators on the island. Among them, you are the only fusion Dao cultivator. Hunyuan Island was vast, dominated by a towering mountain that pierced the clouds. At its peak stood a large Hunyuan hall from which one could look out over most of the initial land. This is your cave dwelling, Senior Yuan said, bringing Luo Feng to a landing in front of a simple cave near the summit. At once, the island's residents, invincible existences guided from many world clusters, saw Senior Yuan descending with a black-cloaked, black-haired man and took notice. To dwell in a cave on the peak of that mountain was an honor reserved for those with a real chance to become world-level Hunyuan. The gathered cultivators all understood that clearly. Chapter 362, 7 Lords, end of this volume. On Hunyuan Island, high above the initial land, Luo Feng sat across from Yuan atop a wind-swept peak. Yuan eased himself down and with a flick of his hand produced pots of fine wine. They both poured a drink. What's worrying you most right now is how to break free from the cage, isn't it? Yuan said, taking a casual swallow. He glanced at Luo Feng. Drink with me and talk. Luo Feng lifted his cup. Please tell me, Senior Yuan, how can I get out of the cage? You're a fusion path cultivator with exceptional talent, Yuan began. A compatible high-level Hunyuan bloodline is something you could probably comprehend more than 70% of. From there, you have two broad options. One is to first become a world-level Hunyuan life, then cultivate further until you reach Hunyuan Lord. The other is to directly comprehend a Hunyuan Dao and force a breakthrough into Hunyuan Lordship by sheer power. As the first Hunyuan Lord in the cultivator camp, Yuan had spent a lifetime exploring cultivation paths. He knew them intimately. Luo Feng listened closely. This would decide his future. Becoming a world-level Hunyuan life can be approached in two ways. One, you take a world-level Hunyuan bloodline. After that breakthrough, your thought processing speed jumps by orders of magnitude, billions of times faster, and your comprehension changes. With such speed and insight, there's hope of perceiving a Hunyuan Dao. Yuan's expression grew sober. But there's a flaw. A Hunyuan bloodline brings a bloodline will into your body. That will can taint your thoughts and contaminate your memories. Will contamination and memory contamination are the downsides of this path. Of the current 7 lords, only one, Naigu, used the bloodline route, Yuan continued. He comprehended the Hunyuan bloodline Dao, mastering the essence of bloodline cultivation, and even integrating multiple Hunyuan ancestor bloodlines into his body. Luo Feng felt a jolt of surprise. To assimilate multiple ancestor bloodlines and master the bloodline path, what an existence that must be. No wonder Hunyuan lords were the top powers of the infinite mixed origin space, able to stand against the eternal origin life camp. The second way to reach world-level Hunyuan is to first refine your home source world and become its master, Yuan went on. This route has no will contamination, no memory contamination. It's the smoothest path. 5 of the 7 lords followed it. I took this path myself. Luo Feng's eyes lit up. 5 of the 7 lords had taken that road. How does one refine their home source world, he asked. The methods are known across the world clusters, Yuan said. Either you master more than half of the source world's origin great path, at least reaching God King's second realm, or you spread faith and influence every living being in the world through that faith. The faith path is extremely difficult. Given your ordinary talent with illusion techniques, you're not suited to the faith path. You also lack enough compatible Daos for the source world mastery route. Luo Feng nodded. The idea of comprehending at least 5 Daos compatible with the source world seemed hopeless for him. He wouldn't even rank high in illusion skill in the dark sacred world. Faith was out of reach. There's one more option, breaking through by sheer force, Yuan said, meeting Luo Feng's eyes. As a half Hunyuan life, directly comprehending a Hunyuan Dao and forcing the breakthrough to Hunyuan Lord. Before Xingmang, we never believed a half Hunyuan life could do that. But Hunyuan Lord Xingmang did. Xingmang comprehended the chaotic origin space-time path, Yuan said. He was half Hunyuan, yet forced a breakthrough and became a Hunyuan Lord. Afterward, his thought-processing speed and comprehension rose even further, boosting his strength. In terms of sheer power and the threat he poses to the eternal origin life camp, Xingmang ranks first among the 7 lords. I think his contributions to the cultivator camp have even surpassed mine. Luo Feng had heard of Yuan's generosity and dominance as the first Hunyuan Lord, so he was surprised to hear Yuan defer to Xingmang. It only underscored how formidable Xingmang must be. Refining a source world isn't suitable for you, Yuan concluded. So you really have only 2 feasible paths. Use a world-level Hunyuan bloodline or attempt to break through by sheer force. The latter is extremely difficult. Even among source world masters, very few can perceive a Hunyuan Dao. Most remain trapped at the source world master level. Luo Feng understood. For a half Hunyuan life to perceive a Hunyuan Dao was almost unthinkable. If you choose the bloodline path, I advise carefully comprehending the bloodline first, Yuan added. Only refine it after you understand more than 70%. That way your control will be firm and the will and memory contamination will be reduced. I understand, Luo Feng said. That's all I can tell you. How you walk the road is your choice. Yuan pointed to a small building a little way off. I've prepared a gift for you. Study it well. Luo Feng thanked him. Yuan nodded and disappeared, always busy. Curious, Luo Feng went into the small building. Inside lay a single silver bracelet. He touched it and with a thought, refined it. The bracelet hummed to life and disclosed its functions. It was a storage device. It held resources and also recorded his reward points. The initial land's ordinary resources are free. Precious items require reward points for exchange. Luo Feng thought for a moment, surprised. Infinite space reward points work here too? The initial land's treasury was vast, far larger than the infinite space treasure trove, and cultivators from high-level origin life up to world-level Hunyuan exchanged goods here. He checked his balance. A little over 10.21 million reward points. 200,000 points had been granted when his spiritual will escaped the cage. Over 10,000 points were carried over from the infinite space. 10 million points had been awarded for being a half-Hunyuan fusion path cultivator. The cultivator camp assumes such a level might reach world-level Hunyuan, so it gives substantial rewards. This bracelet is also a communication device, Luo Feng discovered. It held contact information, counts and entries for countless beings, 87,342 and 13 high-level origin lives, 237 world-level Hunyuan, and the 7 lords all had avatars in the initial land and could be contacted. Because the infinite mixed origin space was so vast, even Hunyuan lords could take long periods to travel between places. In the initial land, everyone who had broken free from the cage had an avatar, so communication across immense distances was possible through these devices. Luo Feng scrolled through the contacts and finally saw the names of the 7 lords. Ordinary cultivators in the initial land would not disturb them. Each lord was busy with the war that would decide the fate of all cultivators. The cave mansion itself had many functions tailored for successive half-Hunyuan fusion path cultivators. Its secret chamber could accelerate time, an invaluable aid since half-Hunyuan thought processing speed was slow, and even comprehending a world-level Hunyuan bloodline could take ages. The time acceleration array in this chamber had been set up personally by Hunyuan Lord Xingmang. At its highest, it could sustain a million-fold acceleration. While one epoch passed outside, a million epochs could pass inside. The mansion had an unlimited energy supply that constantly nourished body and soul. Luo Feng's current thought processing speed was already about 1,000 times what it had been in the dark sacred world, and his soul felt comfortable under the mansion's conditions. It also granted viewing authority. The cave mansion could display the full appearance of any Hunyuan bloodline in the cultivator camp and access many materials. This surpassed the functions of both the Eye of Creation and Destruction and the Wisdom Book combined. Luo Feng understood why some exchangers returned the Wisdom Book. They could refund reward points and obtain better resources here. The free benefits alone, cultivation assistance, time acceleration, observation of all things, and life and death tempering, made the cave mansion priceless. For rarer treasures, he could spend reward points. The cultivator camp offered enormous resources to every half-Hunyuan fusion path cultivator. From the lowest world-level Hunyuan lords had emerged. The 7 lords' origins were clear. One had taken the bloodline path, Naigu, one had broken through by sheer force, Xingmang, and 5 had been source world masters who then became lords. Luo Feng considered his options. Naigu had succeeded through the Hunyuan bloodline Dao, but few others who took the bloodline route had succeeded. Most fusion path cultivators historically chose the bloodline path, yet only Naigu had made it. That suggested serious limitations to that approach. In the end, Luo Feng set his jaw. He felt the pull of ambition and confidence. No matter what, he said to himself, I'll try to break through by sheer force first. End of this volume. Tomorrow will be a day of rest and preparation. The volume after that, Volume 10, Breaking Through by Sheer Force, will begin updates. Chapter 366, Bloodline, recorded by Breaking the Law with Force, Initial Land, Hunyuan Island. Luo Feng stepped into the quiet chamber of his cave dwelling. Before him stretched a vast pocket of space, a complete space-time. Set time acceleration to 1 million-fold, he murmured. The flow of time inside that space-time shifted at his command. 1 second in the outside world became a million seconds inside. Luo Feng smiled as he explored the chamber's other functions. Many of the cave-dwelling systems had been laid out by the lords. They had invested tremendous effort into the initial land. My cultivation path doesn't rely on inheritances, but it does require studying countless Hunyuan bloodlines and corpse materials, he thought, and began to examine them. Every Hunyuan bloodline collected by the cultivator camp was available here in the initial land. Each could be observed in full. So many? Luo Feng's eyes widened. The database listed over 800 million types of low-level Hunyuan life, more than 5 million types of high-level origin life, and over 30,000 world-level Hunyuan bloodlines, along with their corpse materials. The Eternal Origin Life Camp has collected over 99% of low-level Hunyuan bloodlines, 100% of high-level origin life, and 100% of world-level Hunyuan bloodlines. Most of that was collected by Lord Xingmang, the entry noted. Luo Feng was stunned. 30,000 plus world-level races, all catalogued. How many world-level beings had Senior Xingmang killed? Many world-level Hunyuan belonged to the same species. For example, the Eternal Origin Life Camp's most formidable race, the Infinite Great Snake, was rumored to include over a dozen ancestor-level beings and countless world-level Hunyuan. The sheer number of corpses the cultivator camp must have produced was terrifying. No wonder the Dark Sacred World, despite having only 2 high-level origin life as town defenders, could be filled with 7 world-level corpses. Their supply was enormous. No wonder the Eye of Creation and Destruction cost only 120,000 reward points, Luo Feng thought. To the cultivator camp, world-level corpses were simply too common. The fiercer the wars between the two great camps, the more corpses there were. He took note of the name Senior Xingmang in the Eternal Origin Life Camp. All high-level origin life and world-level Hunyuan bloodlines below the ancestor level had been collected by Senior Xingmang, more than 99% of the low-level life as well. What a killing god. No wonder the Eternal Origin Life Camp feared him so much. Senior Xingmang had even painstakingly collected low-level Hunyuan bloodlines. First, Luo Feng requested to observe the world-level Hunyuan bloodline, Blackwater Monarch. He submitted the request through his wristband, and instantly a complete image of the bloodline manifested within the chamber's vast space-time. The enormous phantom of the bloodline appeared, its intricate secret patterns unfurling on multiple levels. Blackwater Monarch is one of the peak existences among world-level Hunyuan. Its life profundity accounts for 33%, destruction profundity 47%. Material, causal, and other profundities are rarer. There are 19 in total, the database explained, helping Luo Feng's comprehension. He scanned the catalog further. All the bloodlines and countless materials collected in the initial land could be observed here. With such a resource, the Eye of Creation and Destruction and the Wisdom Book had become much less essential for him. One notable absence caught his eye. The cultivator camp had not collected any ancestor-level bloodlines. The database warned, ancestor bloodlines contain the highest level of power in the infinite mixed origin space. To date, no life has been able to extract a complete ancestor-level bloodline. Not even Lord Naigu could do it. Luo Feng discovered another function. The initial land could perform material transmission. If the target was locked and it was an inanimate object, it could be transmitted across infinite distances. Treasures exchanged through infinite space were transmitted from unimaginably distant locations straight into the origin continent, an innovation of Senior Xingmang. But it was strictly limited to dead objects. Any living being attempting such a transfer would be severely affected. I'll transmit the Star Tower, Eye of Creation and Destruction, Wisdom Book, and Sky-Rending Blade here, Luo Feng decided. Only in the initial land could he study the Star Tower and Sky-Rending Blade properly. Back in Huyang City on the Origin Continent, inside the City Lord's Mansion quiet room, Luo Feng's clone arranged the 4 treasures before him. Once locked, the artifacts vanished in an instant, snapped away by the initial land's transmission. The infinite mixed origin space was vast, but Senior Xingmang's spatial mastery was extraordinary. Only a master like him could invent such a method. Luo Feng stepped out onto the pavilion of the City Lord's mansion and looked out beyond the origin continent. When the sky falls, the tallest takes the brunt, but today on the origin continent, he was one of the tallest. Even the two nations' forefathers answered to him. The war situation weighed heavily on his mind. The war is dire. Even with a favorable outcome, we might lose most of our territory. Worst case, we could lose everything, Luo Feng thought, feeling immense pressure. This was his homeland, his relatives, friends, and countless human kin multiplied here. If the Dark World group triumphed and the Origin continent were destroyed, what would become of them? Even assuming a migration plan, the initial land was limited. Only so many beings could be evacuated. Before the entire Eternal Origin life camp to turn the tide and protect my homeland, becoming a world-level Hunyuan alone won't be enough, he realized. Looking at how many enemy world-level Hunyuan the cultivator camp had killed, he estimated their ranks numbered in the thousands or tens of thousands, mere fodder compared to lords and ancestors. Only by becoming a lord can I truly influence the war. In the quiet chamber of Hunyuan Island, Luo Feng examined the 4 treasures that had appeared. I'll return the wisdom book, he decided. The wisdom book could analyze everything, but the initial land's own analytical power was greater. His authority allowed him unrestricted access to all Hunyuan bloodlines and materials. He returned the wisdom book and received 200,000 reward points back. He kept the Eye of Creation and Destruction. This gives me a life within the cage, a perspective from outside the cage, he said, placing it into the glabella between his brows. His current observational ability was likely already beyond most high-level Origin life. He had comprehended the primal chaos life-death Tao, letting him exert stronger power through the eye. His mind and will had leaped partway out of the cage, so he could probe the eye's capabilities more deeply. Even if he could use only 1 or 2% of the eye's potential now, that was still beyond most high-level Origin life, since the eye was refined from the corpse of a world-level Hunyuan whose specialty was observation. Using the eye, Luo Feng observed the complete image of the Blackwater monarch bloodline floating in the chamber. It let him perceive crucial nodes with greater clarity. He still found it difficult to probe the deepest secret patterns of the Star Tower blood scale, so he turned to the initial land. Initial land, observe the complete image of the Star Tower's scarlet scales, he requested. The initial land began to penetrate the Star Tower's scarlet scales. A reply came back. These were one of the 3 scarlet scales of the Hunyuan ancestor Myriad Star's primogenitor, who had perished in the Second War between the Eternal Origin Life Camp and the Cultivator Camp. The 3 scarlet scales were also known as the Undying Scales. No known method could destroy them, and nowhere in the infinite mixed origin space was there a way to fully observe them. The initial land could only glimpse about 80% of their patterns and profundities. An enormous phantom of the scarlet scales filled the spacious space-time, occupying nearly half of it. Inside, countless secret patterns shifted and layered. Luo Feng dove into that phantom, the Eye of Creation and Destruction in his glabella, drinking in the endless, changing patterns. This is far richer than what I glimpsed before, he murmured. It was a pity he still couldn't observe the scarlet scales completely across the infinite mixed origin space. Yet even the 80% the initial land revealed was far more complex than a world-level Hunyuan bloodline. He felt excitement rather than discouragement. The more he observed, the more he realized his primal chaos life-death Tao, still limited by existing cage-bound profundities, needed massive augmentation before it could rival ancestor-level bloodlines. Only by reaching that step could he hope to attain the mixed origin life extinguishment Tao. He didn't rush into cultivation. Instead, he gathered information to lay out a detailed training plan. Without a clear plan and direction, breaking the law with force would be impossible. A message arrived then. Fellow Taoist Luo Feng, I am Teng. I'm also from the Dark World Group, it read. Our Dark World Group has produced a total of 13,922 high-level origin life so far. No world-level Hunyuan life has ever been born among us. Over 10,000 high-level origin life from our homeland wish to visit you. Would you have time? Luo Feng was surprised. For high-level origin life, being from the same world cluster made them compatriots. Most source worlds produced no high-level origin life at all. He also realized only Teng had sent a message. The others must have coordinated so as not to flood him with thousands of greetings. You want to see me? Luo Feng replied. He was willing to meet. Chatting with fellow townsmen could be valuable. Many of them had lived a very long time, some possibly longer than Yuan, and their knowledge could surpass his in many fields. We can't enter Hunyuan Island, Tang answered. We'll choose a location outside the island, and our over 10,000 high-level origin life will gather to welcome fellow Taoist Luo Feng. Very well, pick the place. As for time, make it as soon as possible. I'll be going into seclusion soon, Luo Feng said. Tang breathed a quiet sigh of relief. They had acted wisely to contact Luo Feng immediately after learning his news. After all, as the first world-level Hunyuan to be born in the Dark World group, Luo Feng naturally stood as the leader in the eyes of these tens of thousands of high-level origin life. Chapter 367, Breaking the Law with Force. By the Purple Jade Lake in the initial land, high-level origin life arrived in a steady stream. Thousands of them gathered, chatting like old acquaintances. I heard Taoist brother Luo Feng is a fusion path cultivator on the verge of half-primordial origin. How could that be false? He's living on the peak of Hunyuan Island. Many cultivators there have seen it for themselves. Don't worry, my clone once descended into the dark sacred world and obtained footage of Taoist brother Luo Feng fighting a Hunyuan prisoner. He hadn't even escaped the cage yet, and his power was already frightening. Oh, can you share that footage? Interest spread fast. As the combat footage of Luo Feng versus the lava prisoner circulated, any remaining doubts vanished. We can follow Taoist brother Luo Feng with peace of mind now. With his talent, he's bound to become a world-level Hunyuan. Our lives in the Dark World group will be so much better. Excitement buzzed through them. The more they learned about Luo Feng, the more convinced they were that a major power was rising in their midst. In a vast scenic cavern in the initial land, a massive coiled figure slept. Deep purple scales covered its body. Each scale was crystal clear and translucent, a pocket of space containing endless fiery power. A woman in a green robe entered without hindrance. Brother Candlelight, she said. The giant stirred and opened his eyes. Countless fiery stars sparked through his gaze. He kept his bloodline form to better tap its potential. What is it? Brother Candlelight, tens of thousands of high-level origin life under your command are preparing to pledge allegiance to a newly arrived cultivator. The woman hurried on. They're all from the Dark World group. Over 10,000 of them have gone, except for one, Tianlang Ke. She was furious. They're all your subordinates. They went to pay respects to Taoist brother Luo Feng without reporting to you. They should be punished. Candlelight only smiled. They reported to me. I permitted it. You allowed it? The woman in green was stunned. Brother Candlelight, Taoist brother Luo Feng's potential is extraordinary, but a fusion path cultivator needs time to become a world-level Hunyuan. It would be proper for them to wait until after his breakthrough. They switching allegiance now is too soon. Without rules, how will you manage hundreds of thousands of high-level origin life or the millions of skyborn mixed source life? She had followed her brother before he escaped the cage and was close to him. Brother Candlelight was already a late-stage world-level Hunyuan, governing over 100 world clusters, honored by the Yuan Lord. More than 600,000 high-level origin life and over 300 million skyborn mixed source life answered to him. The seven lords stood above them, but real affairs rested with the 237 world-level Hunyuan, immense power concentrated there. Take a look at this footage. Candlelight sent a clip to the woman. She watched and fell silent. The Dark World group is one of the century-plus world clusters I oversee. I learned of Taoist brother Luo Feng's breakthrough immediately. Sige and Fia submitted intelligence about him, including this footage. Candlelight eyed her. Taoist brother Luo Feng will become a world-level Hunyuan soon, I suspect. When that happens, the Dark World group, his birthplace, will naturally fall under him. Let's give him some face. Seeing the footage, the woman's earlier anger softened into admiration. He's this strong before escaping the cage? She murmured. I've never heard of anyone like this before escaping the cage, Candlelight said. Nearly 100 fusion path cultivators have appeared in cultivator camp history, but none displayed such power pre-escape. The woman felt pressure at the thought. If he was already so terrifying, what would he be after? No wonder Candlelight bent over backward. You said only one of the tens of thousands Tianlenke didn't go? Candlelight asked. Yes, I'm certain. The woman nodded. As Candlelight's top general, she'd only needed to check briefly. No one dared lie to her. Candlelight's enormous eyes narrowed with a hint of amusement. He dared not go? Interesting. In a quiet chamber of the initial land, Tianlenke sat before a huge illusory projection of a world-level Hunyuan bloodline, studying its intricate patterns. The silver-haired, three-eyed man watched intently. They haven't even escaped the cage, and they all went to pay respects, he said to the image. Do they think the Dark World group will belong to Luo Feng? He laughed coldly. Wrong. The Dark World group will belong to me. Before he escaped the cage, Tianlanke could grasp only 4 or 5/10ths of the high-level Hunyuan bloodline. His spiritual will was one of the first to break free of the cage, guided personally by a senior Yuan. After arriving at Hunyuan Island and receiving greater resources, he advanced quickly. Within a short time, he comprehended over 7/10ths of the high-level Hunyuan bloodline. Finding the world-level Hunyuan bloodline too difficult at once, he used his high percentage comprehension of the high-level Hunyuan bloodline to escape the cage and reach the high-level origin life consummation. His long years since then had been devoted to deciphering the world-level Hunyuan bloodline. With the superior thought processing and comprehension of high-level origin life, the task became easier. Today he had understood 68% of the world-level Hunyuan bloodline. It's not far from 70%, Tianlanke thought. If I wanted, I could refine the world-level Hunyuan bloodline into my body and break through to world-level Hunyuan. It would take some time, but it's possible. 70% comprehension practically guarantees a breakthrough. A little less can be made to work with effort. He planned to obtain a rare auxiliary treasure, push himself to 70%, and then break through. If I become a world-level Hunyuan first, the Dark World group will belong to me, and those tens of thousands of high-level origin life will be my subordinates. He smiled with conviction. A fusion path cultivator who hadn't even escaped the cage had no right to expect their allegiance. He himself would soon join their ranks. Luo Feng sent a clone off Hunyuan Island and arrived at the Purple Jade Lake, the agreed meeting place. He had known that over 10,000 high-level origin life planned to greet him, but the sight of such a crowd still thrilled him. He's here. Taoist brother Luo Feng has arrived. Conversation died down. Tens of thousands of high-level origin life turned to look. Smiles and humble postures met him as he descended. A small, thin old man with a pointed mouth and monkey-like cheeks stepped forward first. Greetings, Taoist brother Luo Feng. He bowed, prompting tens of thousands to bow in unison. Greetings, Taoist brother Luo Feng. I haven't escaped the cage yet, so I cannot accept the title Taoist brother, Luo Feng said with a smile. Call me a fellow Taoist. No, you must be our senior. The thin old man hurriedly insisted. World-level Hunyuan is within reach for Taoist brother Luo Feng. It is an honor that you meet us before escaping the cage. It is the honor of our entire Dark World group that you came from our home. Before them, these high-level origin life were deferential. Each of their clones could command masses of skyborn mixed-source life or become ancestral gods of vast worlds, or guard the core sacred world of a world cluster. Yet before Luo Feng, they were humble. The gulf between high-level origin life and world-level Hunyuan was clear. Fellow Taoist, Luo Feng said to the thin old man, has our Dark World group produced 13,922 high-level origin life to date? The living number is slightly fewer, 12,883, the thin old man answered. There are 12,882 present today. Only one, Tianlanke, is missing. Luo Feng had already verified the numbers with a glance. Indeed, only one was absent. If a few thousand had been missing, he wouldn't have minded. After all, he hadn't escaped the cage, so there was no obligation to receive everyone's respects. But only one absence made the situation notable. Of the tens of thousands here, the most talented is Tianlanke, the thin old man said with a smile. The rest of us escaped the cage by tapping our bloodline potential. Only he comprehended over 70% of the high-level Hunyuan bloodline and used that to escape. Luo Feng understood. Among high-level origin life, those who broke free of the cage by comprehending their bloodline were rare, 1 in 10,000. In the Dark World Group's history, only Tianlong had done so. He was indeed unusually gifted. Chapter 368, Lords, Break the Law with Force. To be able to comprehend a high-level Hunyuan bloodline and break through, his talent is truly exceptional, Luo Feng praised. The thin old man chuckled. Perhaps it's because he's so talented that he's a little arrogant. The woman in golden robes beside him added, this Tianlong usually looks down on the rest of us and rarely socializes. But looking down on us is one thing. This time, when all of us high-level origin life from the Dark World Group came to pay our respects to Taoist brother Luo Feng, he was the only one who didn't show. That's too much. We messaged him and tried to persuade him, other high-level origin life complained. Luo Feng waved them off with a smile. Everyone, don't just stand there. Please, take your seats. Luo Feng didn't care about Tianlong attitude. To him, his own cultivation was the priority. The haughtiness of a talented high-level origin life was only a small personal quirk. Still, he noted that Tianlong arrogance had left him with poor relations among the tens of thousands of high-level origin life from his home group, hardly the stuff of a good administrator. Once seated, over 10,000 of them relaxed and began to drink and chat. Only the few strongest clustered around Luo Feng. What exactly do you high-level origin life do? Luo Feng asked. We do everything, one answered with a smile. All the countless tasks within the infinite mixed origin space for the cultivator camp ultimately fall to us, high-level origin life. The golden-robed woman who had 3 purple scales on her forehead chuckled. Guarding the various holy realms, nurturing beings across billions of worlds, patrols within the infinite mixed origin space, long-term vigilance, treasure hunts, mining, nearly every mission ends up as our responsibility. We can't do it all personally, the gray-robed man added. So for many grueling jobs, we send out avatars to supervise the subordinate high-level origin life. Luo Feng understood. The cultivator camp had around 80 million cultivated high-level origin life, but the subordinate high-level origin life numbered over 50 billion. Even with their life cores refined, those subordinates needed overseers. The high-level origin life of the cultivator side served as those overseers. The territory governed by our cultivator camp is vast, one said. Without those Skybormic Sorvs, we couldn't manage it. It's not easy, Luo Feng agreed. The 7 lords stood far above such minutiae. They ensured the security of the entire cultivator camp and repelled external invasions. The 237 world-level Hunyuan couldn't personally handle every matter, and cultivators still trapped inside the cage couldn't enter the infinite mixed origin space. The real labor fell to the more than 80 million high-level origin life and their subordinate tens of billions. We in the Dark World Group aren't highly valued, one sighed. Our most promising, Tianlong keeps to himself and ignores us. We do the dirty, exhausting work. Luo Feng listened and asked, how strong are the high-level origin life in the Dark World Group? We try to improve by excavating our Hunyuan bloodline potential, the man replied. Most of us are in the early to middle stages of high-level origin life. Very few reach the late stage. As for the complete stage of high-level origin life, besides Tianlong there are only the 3 of us, he said, looking at his 2 companions. Taoist friend Mu originally refined a world-level Hunyuan bloodline and reached the complete stage of high-level origin life, so he still has a chance to impact world-level Hunyuan. Wu Yan and I excavated high-level Hunyuan bloodlines and reached the complete stage, then refined a new world-level Hunyuan bloodline. With both bloodline wills in our bodies and the memory contamination that comes with it, it's unlikely Wu Yan and I will become world-level Hunyuan. My chance is slim too, Teng admitted. Only Tianlong he comprehended his bloodline and quickly reached the complete stage. Among those who comprehend bloodlines like his, maybe 1 in several dozen can become a world-level Hunyuan. Luo Feng nodded. Among the 237 world-level Hunyuan, nearly 100 had indeed cultivated up from high-level origin life. He asked, by the way, how much do you know about the lords? The 3 of them paused. They didn't dare speak lightly about the lords. We're all under Yuan Lord, one said with a smile. Yuan Lord is quite tolerant of us. Starlight Lord and Wu Lan Lord are also very lenient with their subordinates. The other lords each have their own standards. Luo Feng weighed that. Yuan, Xingmang, and Wu Lan were known for their permissiveness. The others were stricter. The remaining four have different temperaments, the golden-robed woman added. Ming Huang Lord is the kindest. Having spent long stretches in the initial land, these high-level origin life knew the personalities of the seven lords well, but none dared speak ill. Any such criticism would be noticed, and the lords could be unforgiving. Luo Feng listened carefully. Yuan, Xingmang, Wu Lan were lenient. Ming Huang was benevolent. What about the rest? He turned to the rumor he'd long wanted to verify. Starlight Lord is said to have broken laws with power, he asked. Do you know how long it took him? I was already a high-level origin life before Starlight Lord escaped the cage, one answered. So I remember it clearly. Back then, Starlight Lord was at the invincible level and a cultivator of the path of fusion. He was guided to Hunyuan Island and lived in a cave mansion at the mountain's summit. He lived for an incredibly long time, 120,000 billion eras before breaking through. He may be the longest residing path of fusion cultivator in Hunyuan Island's history, the man continued. 120,000 billion eras? The number stunned Luo Feng. That was the time known in the outside world. If Starlight Lord had used the cave mansion's time-accelerating quiet room, the effective time might have been even longer. The current cave mansion could permanently sustain a million-fold time acceleration, an installation Starlight Lord had set up. Before he escaped the cage, it must have provided far less acceleration, but it was still significant. Yes, during his stay, another path of fusion cultivator arrived. A second high mountain rose on Hunyuan Island, and a second cave mansion was built, the man said. From those facts, Luo Feng sensed how difficult it was to break laws with power. For a being still inside the cage to comprehend the chaotic origin space-time path would be extremely arduous, which matched the enormous span of time. What else is known about Starlight Lord breaking laws with power? Luo Feng pressed. The veterans had lived in the initial land a long time and had heard many rumors. I heard that before he broke out of the cage, he already had a method to reincarnate into other source worlds, the golden-robed woman said. Though he was said to have spent 120,000 billion eras in the cave mansion, much of that time he may have spent reincarnating across source worlds. I also heard he once applied for a world-level Hunyuan servant, a subordinate world-level Hunyuan, the gray-robed man added. News of that only came out after he broke through. That servant was a subservient, skyborn, mixed source life at the world-level Hunyuan, and now Starlight Lord cherishes that servant. Kaya 2, another chimed in. It's the world-level Hunyuan Kaya 2. Starlight Lord values Kaya 2 highly. Luo Feng considered why a path of fusion cultivator would acquire a world-level Hunyuan servant. The application cost was enormous, 5 million reward points, enough to make even path of fusion cultivators hesitate. I heard it was so he could go into the infinite mixed origin space, the gray-robed man said. Before breaking out of the cage, Starlight Lord was intensely curious about the infinite mixed origin space. He visited many special, mysterious places that weaker servants couldn't access, so he specifically chose a world-level Hunyuan servant. Kayatu is also skilled in space-time abilities, Teng added. These early rumors, once secret, became more widely known after Starlight Lord's breakthrough. From them, Luo Feng deduced some of Starlight Lord's methods, reincarnating into source worlds repeatedly, sending avatars and a trusted world-level Hunyuan servant like Kaya 2 to explore and cultivate in the infinite mixed origin space for long periods, and ultimately, spending roughly 120,000 billion eras before breaking laws with power. Not every detail was recorded in the initial land's official data, but the long-residing high-level origin life had gathered these threads. Luo Feng drank and talked for a long time and left with a clearer picture of the cultivator camp's operation, the camp's command structure, past conflicts with the Eternal Origin Life Camp, historical wars, and the temperaments of the Seven Lords. Back at his cave mansion on Hunyuan Island's peak, Luo Feng reflected. Starlight Lord took 120,000 billion eras to break laws with power. If I want to do the same, I must have patience and not rush. He steeled himself for a long period of cultivation. My foundation must be unshakable. Luo Feng settled in the quiet room, Among the over 800 million types of low-level Hunyuan bloodlines, 56.03 million were categorized as life type, destruction type, or creation and destruction combined types. I'll start from scratch, he resolved. For each of these 56.03 million low-level Hunyuan bloodlines and their host materials, I will perform secret pattern completion and study them thoroughly. He wasn't yet bent on creating a path of creation and destruction at the primordial origin level. Instead, he began by studying the weakest low-level Hunyuan bloodlines. With that, Luo Feng entered his first seclusion in the initial land. Chapter 369, Using Force to Break the Laws of Cultivation and War. Luo Feng began, as always, with his poor man's enlightenment method. He would study the most fragmentary specimens, a single scale, a strip of sinew, a scrap of flesh, a glob of blood, and from those scraps deduce secret patterns and profound principles. Piece by piece, he would assemble them in his mind into ever more complete forms, then compare the results with the Hunyuan bloodline. The cave dwelling the lords had built for him nourished both his soul and his body, and it increased his thought processing speed to 1,000 times what it had been in the dark sacred world. By consuming a few rare treasures, he could push that speed to 10,000 times normal. At 10,000 times thought speed and with a far higher realm of cultivation, even careful study became incredibly efficient. In the beginning, it only took a single epoch for him to fully comprehend 100 varieties of low-level Hunyuan bloodlines. From tens of thousands, the number grew to hundreds of thousands. Gradually, the number of Hunyuan bloodlines Luo Feng had mastered swelled without pause. Then, one day, the patterns I've reconstructed are more perfect than those of this Hunyuan bloodline, Luo Feng realized. The structures he was forming in his mind had already begun to surpass the original arrangements of many low-level Hunyuan bloodlines. What is born naturally is not necessarily the best. These are low-level Hunyuan lives, he told himself. They have flaws. At first, he could only spot 1 or 2 flaws. Over time, he learned to find dozens at a glance. Many low-level Hunyuan bloodlines were riddled with subtle defects that kept their life forms capped at God Emperor early or God Emperor middle strength. Those weaknesses made them limited. High-level Hunyuan bloodlines, however, were far more interesting, full of subtleties Luo Feng had never imagined. When he finally finished with the low-level bloodlines and moved on to high-level ones, the excitement was electric. The mysteries embedded in high-level Hunyuan bloodlines opened vistas that had never occurred to him. Like a devout student, Luo Feng absorbed new secrets of life, creation, and destruction through relentless pattern comparisons. Even when exhausted, after relaxing with his family and friends in his home source world, he returned to comprehension and cultivation. Most of this process was pure exhilaration. In the infinite mixed origin space, the Jade River World cluster lay in ruins. Its core, the Jade River Sacred World, had been shattered, as if an egg had been pecked open, leaving only scraps drifting through the void. This world cluster held billions of worlds and many source worlds. Hundreds of ordinary worlds had already been breached and their life extinguished. Many source worlds had been devastated. Life was gone, and they had entered a new cycle. Worse, some source worlds had been swallowed whole, devoured cleanly, and left nothing behind. 7 terrifying figures stood amid that vast, broken space. Each one radiated supreme power and an absolute grasp of force. These were lords who held seats in the eternal land. Together, they were a force that made entire factions tremble. The 7 were not in good spirits. The Hunyuan ancestors have temporarily withdrawn, one said. They all knew it was only a pause in the fighting. 75 Hunyuan ancestors united against the 7 of us, the deep green-skinned being side. Even united, we are at a disadvantage. We can only watch helplessly as the skyborn mixed-source life army devastates source worlds and the billions of worlds. The Hunyuan ancestors pin us down, the green being continued. With their massive army, they simply attack without restraint. Their numbers are countless. While we contend with them, we cannot stop the onslaught. In this war, there's no hope. We are destined to lose. Naigu, enough! Lord Jin, clad in silver scales, 12 sharp horns crowning his head, a long scaly tail trailing him, roared. If they want to devour the world clusters in our territory, their Hunyuan ancestors will have to fight to the death. So far, we've already eliminated 3 Hunyuan ancestors. Let's see how many more they're willing to lose. I agree with Jin, another lord said. A tall, slender man in a black cloak smiled faintly. War, he observed, always caused losses. Losing a few source worlds, losing billions of lesser worlds, the infinite mixed origin space will give birth to new source worlds in time, and we can create new billions of worlds. Losses are inevitable. What matters is that the whole infinite mixed origin space understands. Anyone who dares to provoke our cultivator camp will pay a terrible price. We still need a plan, Yuan said, frowning. Watching them seize one world cluster after another isn't an answer. We've invested great effort in each one. The lords had indeed poured time and arrangements into every source world under their care, seeding life, setting up space-time transmission networks, alarms, resource exploitation points. Now those investments were being shredded. Wu Lan, the largest in stature, looked to a middle-aged man among them. Starlight Lord, who had many forms, child, youth, middle-age, elder, had countless avatars scattered through different source worlds and futures. Of all the 7, Xingmang had the most methods and perspectives. The Skyborn Mixed Source Life Camp and the Hunyuan ancestors are not monolithic, Xingmang said. Their internal conflicts are significant. He explained, this time they got 80% of the Hunyuan ancestors to join the war, 93 ancestors in total. We've killed 3 so far. The remaining 90 will rotate into battle. Those badly hurt will retreat to recuperate, and others will replace them. Is there a way to kill another Hunyuan ancestor? Wu Lan asked, and the other lords turned to Xingmang for an answer. Xingmang constantly sent avatars into future timelines and observed the entire infinite mixed origin space. He recorded its past, present, and future. After facing us for so long, the Hunyuan ancestors have learned and adapted, Xingmang said. It's already very difficult for the 7 of us to kill another one. More than 70 Hunyuan ancestors pressing in might seem decisive, but the Lord's power was not easily overwhelmed by numbers. They could inflict injuries on ancestors that accumulated into serious harm, and when enough damage built up, even an ancestor could fall. Still, the Hunyuan ancestors had reserves for rotation. The 7 lords did not. That lack of backup left them all exhausted. We've lost so many resources, and yet no new lords have appeared. The tall man in the black cloak said, You can't make a lord simply by throwing resources at someone. They need sufficient tempering. Too many resources can be harmful. I agree, Lord Jin said. Only brutal tempering produces strong individuals. Giving too much just produces weaklings. There's no need to argue about cultivation methods now, Yuan said. When the next era comes, we'll set new approaches. Mo-Man and Lord Jin fell silent. By the way, Yuan added with a smile, a cultivator named Luo Feng has recently been walking the fusion path. His talent is quite good. Oh, he can become a source world master without relying on a bloodline? Wu Lan pressed. Yuan shook his head. He'll probably still need to refine a bloodline. If he refines a bloodline, there's no hope, the golden-robed woman said coldly. No hope at all. Naigu nodded. I comprehend the mixed origin life extinguishment Tao, so I'm immune to bloodline, will, and corruption. This Luo Feng isn't cultivating the bloodline path, is he? It's the path of creation and destruction, Yuan confirmed. No hope, Naigu repeated. The other lords shared his disappointment. Only Starlight Lord's eyes showed a glimmer of curiosity. As reality unfolded, some of his countless future timelines simply collapsed and vanished. Those futures were no longer possible. Starlight Lord moved between timelines, studying possibilities. They underestimated Luo Feng, he murmured. He had watched over 30 million possible futures for Luo Feng and found 9 plausible paths leading to him becoming a lord. In one path, he refines a world-level Hunyuan bloodline and rises to world-level Hunyuan. Then, under the influence of will and memory corruption, he abandons his original Tao and starts cultivating from scratch. He forces himself to comprehend the mixed origin life extinguishment Tao, a road of perpetual destruction and pollution. In that path, he succeeds only once. But breaking the rules by force, I saw him succeed 8 times. Starlight Lord's eyes brightened with expectation. Among the current younger generation, Luo Feng's potential was the highest. In some future timelines, the 237 world-level Hunyuan lives of the cultivator camp would occasionally make the leap to become lords as well, a possibility, not a certainty. Out of over 30 million futures, 9 showed Luo Feng succeeding. His prospects, Starlight Lord believed, were vast. Chapter 370, A Little Progress on Hunyuan Island. High atop a cliff in the initial land, Luo Feng sat quietly with a wine pot at his side. The eye of creation and destruction on his brow opened, letting him clearly observe the lives of the invincible beings within Hunyuan Island and peer across most of the initial land. Quiet, peaceful, Luo Feng murmured, watching the sheltered realm. It might even be called absolutely safe. The initial land had been nurtured by the infinite mixed origin space and later refined and reinforced by several lords. Starlight Lord had moved it into a special space-time, making it impossible for many Hunyuan ancestors to find. Still, the wider cultivator territory was under relentless assault. Luo Feng had heard that another world cluster had fallen, the Jade River World Cluster. News of a world cluster's fall was hard for cultivators trapped in the cage to fully grasp, but within the initial land, such losses spread quickly among world-level Hunyuan and high-level origin life. Each world cluster required vast numbers of high-level origin life to guard it, and with clones dying in battle, the truth could not be hidden. At its peak, the cultivator territory controlled 3,600 world clusters, Luo Feng recalled. That was only nominal. The peripheries have been under constant attack by the Eternal Origin Life Camp. Some areas, like the Dark World Group, remained relatively safe, but peripheral world clusters kept falling. Now only 2,922 world clusters remain. He thought of the larger picture. Although the cultivator camp had counter-killed 3 Hunyuan ancestors, many world-level Hunyuan, and countless high-level origin life, the Eternal Origin Life Camp was willing to sacrifice thousands to take a single enemy, and their deep reserves meant more and more clusters would be lost. Yuan Lord had warned that the worst outcome was that all territories could fall. Luo Feng understood the 7 lords had little they could do to reverse the tide. The opponent's overall strength was simply enormous, and even now the Eternal Origin Life Camp had only unified most of its forces. Some Hunyuan ancestors still refused to take part. Will my home source world fall? The news of the Jade River World Cluster had reached him just as his first seclusion in the initial land ended, and his mood soured. He worried for his family, his friends, and the countless human lives back home. If a world cluster fell and a source world was destroyed, all living beings would perish. Even a migration plan would be long and uncertain. The initial land was limited in capacity. How many could it take in? To change the war, you need a lord, Luo Feng thought. A new world-level Hunyuan won't change the balance. Only the birth of a lord can. His first seclusion had given him much, but a lord still felt impossibly distant. That seclusion had lasted over 3.7 million epochs. Of that, deciphering more than 5.6 million low-level Hunyuan bloodlines had taken about 900,000 epochs. Deciphering over 320,000 high-level Hunyuan bloodlines had taken more than 2.8 million epochs, a total of roughly 3.7 million epochs. Because the cave dwelling reserved for fusion path cultivators had a quiet room that accelerated time up to 1,000,000-fold, only a little over 3 epochs had passed in the outside world. Little time outside had passed, but Luo Feng's spirit was exhausted, so he came out to take in the initial land scenery. Starlight Lord broke through by sheer force and spent an unbelievable time, he reflected, comparing paths. He felt a burning fighting spirit after hearing of the Jade River cluster. He returned to the quiet room of his cave dwelling and sat cross-legged, the sky-rending blade plunged into the ground beside him. The initial land's observation ability could project over 80% of the mysteries contained in the sky-rending blade into the quiet room. Those projections were fully displayed before him. I can understand parts of the sky-rending blade's mysteries, he thought. His accumulation had grown tens or even hundreds of times since he had been guided. Comprehending Hunyuan bloodlines that spanned life, destruction, and creation and destruction had greatly improved his understanding of life and destruction. In the soul and consciousness system, he'd made a qualitative leap. Among the 320,000 high-level Hunyuan bloodlines he'd deciphered, More than 10,000 involved the soul and consciousness system. His spiritual will had strengthened, at least tenfold compared to before. Though his body and soul were still trapped in the cage, his spiritual will alone had reached the top tier among high-level origin life. Most crucial of all is that I've newly comprehended the Hunyuan power system, Luo Feng said to himself. That had been his greatest gain from the first seclusion. In the infinite mixed origin space, everything originated from Hunyuan power. Hunyuan power was the soil of all life. Having deciphered a large number of low-level and high-level Hunyuan bloodlines, he'd begun to grasp their common origin, Hunyuan power. Without Hunyuan power, life cannot exist. If I want to pursue the most massive, most powerful life forms, the Hunyuan power system is indispensable. He began constructing such a system. Even the weakest low-level Hunyuan life could absorb Hunyuan power, and Luo Feng's Hunyuan power framework was steadily filling out. Now I'll begin to comprehend world-level Hunyuan bloodlines. He filtered the candidates. Among the more than 30,000 world-level Hunyuan bloodlines, 2,729 spanned life, destruction, and creation and destruction. He adopted an old rule, the start poor, then prosper method. He chose one world-level bloodline and set out to comprehend the 12 corresponding corpse materials, dark blue scales, fangs, blood, and so on. The materials of world-level Hunyuan life were far harder to interpret. From the start, he encountered confusions that blocked him. He worked patiently through them, but 50,000 epochs later, he still stared at the materials in despair. I can't make headway, let alone complete the secret patterns, he admitted. He tried every method he could think of, but too many baffling secret patterns remained. Even 100 times more time didn't inspire confidence he could solve half the puzzles. I can't waste time, he told himself. According to his plan, a world-level Hunyuan bloodline was only a small step. He couldn't get stuck here forever. He decided to modify his approach. Start with the easy, then move to the difficult, he resolved. First, he'd filter out the bloodlines most compatible with him among the 2,729. He had been overconfident before. Having fully comprehended all low-level and high-level Hunyuan bloodlines that spanned life, destruction, and creation and destruction, he tried to conquer every world-level bloodline. The first one had stopped him cold, and he sobered up. Scanning carefully, he found 73 corpse material types that were relatively compatible, ones he could grasp 3 or 4/10 of at a glance. They likely lay closer to his path. Let's begin, he said. He picked the most compatible, the corpse material of a world-level Hunyuan called the Star Sea Demon Master. This time, progress was smoother. In less than 100,000 epochs, he achieved a thorough understanding of the corpse materials and completed the secret patterns. Comparing them with the Hunyuan bloodline, his comprehension of the Star Sea Demon Master bloodline exceeded 70%. The life and destruction mysteries account for 75%, and I've nearly comprehended them all. Luo Feng smiled. He had finally grasped one world-level Hunyuan bloodline. With that bloodline, he could confidently become a world-level Hunyuan, and after some time, he could reach perfection. But what I truly pursue is breaking through by sheer force, he reminded himself. He moved on to a second world-level bloodline. Going from easy to difficult, he prioritized the most compatible types first. The later ones grew more challenging and took longer. Over time, he had deciphered 15 of the 73 compatible world-level bloodlines to above 70% comprehension. His second seclusion had already lasted nearly 10 million epochs, bringing his total seclusion time to about 12 million epochs. He had finished trying the compatible set, but only 15 had reached the 70% mark. That posed another problem. Bloodline refinement carried will contamination and memory contamination. To minimize those distortions, cultivators of the fusion path needed to refine as few bloodlines as possible and complete them thoroughly. Even though Luo Feng could theoretically refine 15 world-level bloodlines, the resulting contamination would warp his own path and likely sever any chance of comprehending a Hunyuan Dao again. It was better to choose one bloodline and perfect it. On the shore of a lake in the initial land, Yuan sat fishing alone. An automatic report arrived. Luo Feng has already deciphered the 15th world-level Hunyuan bloodline. The initial land kept a close watch on Hunyuan Island, monitoring the cultivation progress of juniors who had not yet escaped the cage. When Luo Feng pondered bloodline mysteries in his quiet room, each advancement was recorded. Mastering a high-level Hunyuan bloodline by over 70% wasn't reported, but a world-level bloodline crossing that threshold triggered a notification. 15? Yuan said, continuing to fish without much interest. Many fusion path cultivators who refined bloodlines became adept at several. A third of them could master more than a dozen world-level bloodlines. Luo Feng's actual seclusion time was 12 million epochs, which is relatively short, Yuan mused. But only 15 fully comprehended types. That's not much. He remained calm. Luo Feng had made progress, but he was still far, far from becoming a lord. Chapter 371. I saw it. Luo Feng felt a swell of joy. Of the 73 world-level Hunyuan bloodlines most compatible with him, only 15 had secret patterns he'd comprehended over 70%. For the rest, he had grasped 40 to 50%. Every world-level Hunyuan bloodline he studied, through comprehension, secret pattern completion, and bloodline comparison, gave him new insights. He loved the feeling of slow, steady progress. As long as he kept moving forward, he would keep advancing. I can see why a world-level Hunyuan's physique can be so enormous, he murmured. The body of a world-level Hunyuan greatly exceeded that of a high-level Hunyuan, on the order of 1% of a normal source world. For comparison, a Hunyuan ancestor's average physique was only about a tenth of a normal source world. The difference between those stages was more a matter of power than raw physical size, but the physical gap was also significant. At the world-level Hunyuan stage, the physical body system is already very refined. In Luo Feng's mind, a new system was forming, a physical body system drawing on the life and destruction profundities of countless world-level Hunyuan bloodlines. His accumulated resources had always consisted of 4 pillars: the mind and consciousness system, the life system, the destruction system, and the Hunyuan power system. Those 4 would be the cornerstones for building the mixed origin life extinguishment Tao. Now he was exploring a 5th pillar, the physical body system. The mixed origin life extinguishment Tao I pursue aims for an enormously powerful life form. The physical body system is crucial, he thought as he sorted through more than 2,000 world-level Hunyuan bloodlines. He studied them one by one, from easiest to hardest. After the foundation he'd built from the original 73, the comprehension became easier. Patiently, he worked through all 2,029 world-level Hunyuan bloodlines. He studied them again and again, once, twice, 3 times, each pass yielding a fresh insight as his base of accumulation deepened. He lost track of time. Eventually, he stopped. That's enough, he decided. No matter how much more I study these world-level bloodlines, the gains are negligible. He paused after more than 30 thorough comprehensions. He treasured these world-level Hunyuan bloodlines and the corpse materials Starlight Lord had gathered. They were rare and precious, so he had been patient and meticulous. Between life, destruction, and creation, destruction aspects, I've fully comprehended all the low-level and high-level Hunyuan bloodlines, he reviewed. Of the world-level bloodlines, I've fully comprehended 43 types. I've reread the others so often now that significant insights are hard to come by. Luo Feng's eyes shone. Now it's time to study ancestor-level corpse materials. He had come to the initial land and cultivated in seclusion for 350 million epochs, focusing on building his foundations. To attempt to construct the mixed origin life extinguishment Tao without first understanding Hunyuan ancestor-level materials would be foolhardy. To approach ancestor-level materials properly, he had to exhaust his comprehension of low-level, high-level, and world-level bloodlines. In the quiet chamber, he took a sip of fruit wine, another luxury paid for with reward points. A single unit cost 100,000 points, but its effect on cultivation could last 1 billion epochs. Initial land, show me the ancestor-level materials I have permission to examine, he said. As of now, the initial land replied, the cultivator camp has slain a total of 17 Hunyuan ancestors. With ancestor-level corpse materials purchased from other powers, there are 31 ancestor-level corpse materials available. Luo Feng's breath caught. Their lords really were formidable to have slain 17 ancestors. though it also suggested ancestors died by other causes in the infinite mixed origin space. Any with life or destruction secret patterns above 70%? He asked. No. Luo Feng was stunned. Among the over 2,000 world-level bloodlines he'd chosen, the combined life and destruction profundities were over 70%. Yet among ancestor-level corpse materials, not a single one qualified. What about combined totals above 60%? None. A chill touched Luo Feng's mind. Send me all the information I can access on those 31 ancestor materials. Transmitting now. Detailed dossiers and material data flowed into his mind. He studied them and discovered that among these 31 deceased ancestors, the highest proportion of life-type secret patterns was only about 39%. Myriad Stars Primogenitor's corpse, an origin of star tower blood scales and a guiding influence on Luo Feng's path, had around 34% life-type secret patterns, ranking it second among the 31. Their life-type secret patterns are generally low, he observed. That could be a factor in their deaths. The mixed creation-destruction path Luo Feng pursued relied heavily on life. A higher life proportion provided stronger survivability. He started with Myriad Stars Primogenitor's material since it was most compatible with him. He had been guided by it, and its role as source of the Star Tower blood scale made it the obvious first choice. Meanwhile, in the initial land, Starlight Lord's voice echoed to the other 6 lords. Those Hunyuan ancestors are acting again. They only rested 500 epochs. Are they going to keep attacking? Some of them probably haven't fully recovered, another lord replied. Facing over 70 Hunyuan ancestors, the 7 lords were outnumbered, but lords wielded the Hunyuan Dao and understood the highest laws. Once a lord struck with profound Dao power, the effect was hard to completely purge. Even after 500 epochs, several ancestors still hadn't fully recovered. These ancestors are fighting with their lives, someone said. They were once the dominant power of the infinite mixed origin space. After several clashes, we've killed over a dozen. They're desperate to destroy our cultivator camp. They all understood the stakes. Control of territories and countless source worlds produced a steady stream of talented cultivators. If the 7 lords conquered everything, they could someday regularly exterminate the life in source worlds and rule the space entirely. But with only 7 lords, perhaps 8 or 9 later, they remained a strong force, but not an unstoppable one, and the Eternal Origin Life Camp still held great power. Let's go, Starlight Lord ordered. Though the 7 were still slightly fatigued, they set out together, led by Starlight Lord, and quickly swept across space to intercept the ancestors. Back on the Origin continent, high above the world on a tall tower, Luo Feng sat with Morosa attending him. Morosa, effectively the uncrowned king of the Origin continent, beamed with pride. Master, it's rare for you to come out of seclusion, he said. You've managed the Origin continent well, Luo Feng replied. It is my honor to serve, Master, Morosa said, proud to serve. Luo Feng's brow furrowed. The true crisis would come from outside. If the Eternal Origin Life Camp invaded the Heartland and the Dark World Group fell, the Origin continent's life would have no defense. Luo Feng opened his biomimetic extinction eye. Now far more profound than before, and combined with his mighty mind and will, that eye could pierce through the source world at a single glance and beyond. He saw the traces of rules across his home source world. The 9 great paths interlocked and operated in precise harmony, the running logic of the world. The origin of the source world, he whispered. This origin, the source where the 9 great paths met, was the core of the source world's rule operation and its power source. As long as the origin remained, a source world could be reborn even after destruction. Once the origin vanished, the source world would be gone forever. Skyborn mixed source life coveted the origin above all. Even a world-level Hunyuan consuming it might have a sliver of hope to break through to ancestor level. The secret patterns of the 31 ancestor materials he had studied for hundreds of millions of epochs replayed in his mind. The scattered secret patterns of many paths, when overlaid, had formed wholes. In front of him, the 9 great paths interwove into the origin. Boom. Luo Feng's eyes blazed. He had seen it. He saw the true reason a source world held such power, and why certain beings could become ancestors. The pattern clicked into place. Through the mist of distant studies, the path that forced the breaking of laws had finally become clear. The way forward lay beneath his feet. Chapter 372. I Want Both. What has Master understood? Morosa, who stood at his side, heard his master's soft murmur and felt a flicker of confusion. He could tell Luo Feng was deep in a state of enlightenment, so he dared not disturb him. Carefully he stood guard, forbidding any living thing to approach and risk breaking his master's concentration. Between Luo Feng's brows, the Eye of Creation and Destruction watched the source world origin. The secret pattern diagrams of the 31 ancestor corpses in his mind surfaced and were laid out for comparison. No wonder a world-level Hunyuan life, once it controls a source world, can stand toe-to-toe with a Hunyuan ancestor, Luo Feng thought. With the source world as its soul, it's essentially the same level as the ancestor. He understood at last. An ordinary source world is like a vast body without a soul. With a master, it gains a soul, and that transforms everything. Even an ancestor could be helpless against it one-on-one. That's why all Skyborn mixed source life possess a life core. Even ancestor-level beings have one, he realized. For Skyborn mixed source life, everything else can be discarded, but the life core is paramount. If it shatters, that is true annihilation. He had long thought the life core was a terrible weakness, an imperfection of their natural gestation. Cultivators, who cherish their own path, do not have such a life core, and thus lack this glaring weakness. But the life core is also the source of boundless potential. Some progenitors had fallen precisely because they carried such a vital point. The life core is another form of origin, Luo Feng mused. Each Skyborn mixed-source life is born with an origin. He saw why bloodline cultivators needed special resources. To rise to higher levels, they refined stronger Hunyuan bloodlines. But for Skyborn mixed-source life, gaining a higher-level bloodline was difficult. Drops of blood bestowed by higher beings were rare. Yet some Skyborn beings could grow simply by feeding on source world origin, and a few could even become progenitors that way. Cultivators on the bloodline path focus on Hunyuan bloodlines and have methods to extract them, but they cannot extract a complete ancestor-level bloodline. For Skyborn life, the core isn't bloodline, it's the life core. The life core's growth drives the growth of life. Each advance of the life core forces the bloodline to evolve, which is why different grade Hunyuan bloodlines manifest differently. Luo Feng felt a pang of admiration. Skyborn mixed source life are truly the darlings of the infinite mixed origin space, born with a life core that can, given opportunity, grow to rival a source world origin, reaching ancestor level. That was the secret of the highest level life. Ancestor level life and source worlds both have origins. Lords should have origins too, he thought, but their origins differ. For the first two, the origin is physical. For lords, the origin is the Hunyuan Dao. The Dao itself is undying, and so the Lord is undying. That was the essential difference. He grasped more. The progenitor's origins, the life cores, are tangible and thus vulnerable, but they can accumulate power and support gigantic bodies. Lords, lacking a tangible origin, have less accumulated power and are generally smaller in physique. Given a choice, those progenitors would prefer being small and without a single fatal weak point, truly undying and indestructible. My path of creation and destruction, with life as its center and destruction as auxiliary, now I glimpse the highest secrets of life, Luo Feng said to himself. If he could thoroughly comprehend that essence, he could create billions of origins within his own body. The progenitor's life cores were natural. If Luo Feng could comprehend the Tao-like essence behind them, he could manufacture origins, opening countless grotto heaven spaces inside himself. That would let him both eliminate the fatal weak point of a single origin and harness the immense energy accumulation that billions of origins would provide. I want both, he decided. Only by comprehending life's Tao could he achieve it. A lord who had comprehended the mixed origin life Tao would possess a body both vast and durable, most vibrant and hardest to destroy in the infinite mixed origin space. Luo Feng's mixed origin life extinguishment Tao tilted toward life. Destruction was a secondary feature. He now had a clear direction. High on the peak of Hunyuan Island, in the quiet cave room of the initial land, the great secret pattern diagrams of the 31 ancestor-level materials floated before him. Luo Feng opened the Eye of Creation and Destruction, and watched intently. "I can see the path," he whispered, "but I must walk it myself. Only by walking it to the end can I seize the Tao." He knew how difficult it would be to both remove the Origin's fatal vulnerability and exploit its energy-gathering advantage. The scattered secret patterns of the progenitors actually formed a single body. Specialization hid that unity. The current 7 lords specialized in destruction, thunder, or fluctuation. None excelled in life. Origin was life's supreme mystery, and without deep accumulation in that field, it was impossible to perceive it. Luo Feng's foundation was deep. His study of the primal chaos life-death Tao, comprehension of over 50 million low-level Hunyuan bloodlines, research into more than 320,000 high-level Hunyuan bloodlines, investigation of over 2,000 types of world-level Hunyuan bloodlines, and the materials from 31 ancestor corpses, altogether gave him extraordinary depth. Only with this could he glimpse the path. Now he had a real possibility of becoming a lord. No wonder every ancestor carries at least 10% of life mysteries inside them, he thought. The mysteries formed by a life core are primarily rooted in life. It was fortunate his focus had been on the life path. Had he concentrated on destruction, he might never have achieved this understanding. Breaking through by sheer force would require enormous luck. In Luo Feng's future mixed origin life extinguishment Tao, beyond the mental consciousness system, life system, destruction system, Hunyuan power system, and physical body system, there would be a 6th, the origin system. The origin system would be central. He studied the 31 ancestor secret patterns, not to simply imitate their forms, but to grasp the underlying essence of how origins combine and arise. Observing the same thing from different angles brought different insights. From the origin system's perspective, those 31 patterns offered new revelations. His origin system felt like a seed drinking in nourishment, beginning to grow. Luo Feng threw himself into meticulous study, again and again. Time blurred, he only felt his accumulations deepening and the origin system gradually taking shape. Almost there, he told himself. Then one day he stopped. He had gone over the ancestor materials countless times and knew them almost too well. The 6 major systems of his mixed origin life extinguishment Tao were deeply accumulated and beginning to integrate. In his mind, a rough outline of the Tao had already formed. "I have thoroughly comprehended these Hunyuan bloodlines, both low-level and high-level," he reflected. "But of the 2,729 world-level Hunyuan bloodlines, I've only comprehended 43. I've studied ancestor-level materials for over 1 billion eras. Now let's see how many of the world-level bloodlines I can grasp." He brought out an uncomprehended world-level Hunyuan bloodline and its auxiliary materials. Less than a day of inspection, and a smile touched his lips. With his new perspective, he re-examined world-level Hunyuan bloodlines and discovered a secret. At the world level, the secret patterns inside the body had already begun to form an origin, but the origin was incomplete and therefore hard to detect. Only after his origin system had matured sufficiently could he perceive it. Chapter 373, The Future is Collapsing and Unifying. In the initial land, in the quiet chamber of Yuan's cave dwelling, a majestic figure sat cross-legged like an immovable pillar in the infinite mixed origin space. Countless Taos coalesced around him, some becoming divine dragons coiling around his arms, others manifesting as firebirds among his hair. Brilliant mist flowed in and out of his nose and mouth, and billions of universes shimmered across the skin of his being. "Lord, the Posen world group, Win 7 line, has fallen. Lord, the Changjuan world has been breached. Its origin has been devoured. Lord, the Ice Peak camp has infiltrated our Chunwei world group. I tried to repel them, but a terrifying existence from Ice Peak destroyed my main combat avatar. They've now occupied 12 of our world clusters and show no sign of stopping." Reports kept arriving. As the first lord of the Cultivator camp, Yuan had immense reserves and a path well suited to governing the camp's territory. Though the camp was said to have 7 lords, many crucial decisions fell to Yuan. Only truly momentous matters were taken to the collective. Streams of information poured in non-stop, and Yuan calmly issued orders while he read them. He opened his eyes slowly. Time and space shuddered in their depths, thunder and fire surging. "Our cultivator camp is being utterly suppressed by the Eternal Origin Life Camp. and other forces are opportunistically picking off scraps, he said grimly. There was nothing he could do about his frustration. In the infinite mixed origin space, every threat was formidable. Forces that held seats in the eternal land were never easy to confront. Above all, the unattached undying existences, whose current predatory raids on the cultivator camp's resources were a massive headache. Ordinarily, the Seven Lords together could rout some undying. But under pressure from the Heavenly Origin camp, the Lords could not spare the strength. There are still too few Lords, Yuan thought. Why is the Eternal Origin Life Camp the largest? Because they have over 100 progenitors. One small piece of incoming information hadn't seemed remarkable at first, but then it drew Yuan's attention. Cultivator Luo Feng has comprehended the 97th world-level Hunyuan bloodline. He read on. He has already comprehended 97 types? Yuan's interest was piqued. Comprehending 97 world-level Hunyuan bloodlines was extraordinary. Among the current 7 lords, 5 had first refined a source world to become masters of the source world, and then, leveraging their thought speed and comprehension, ascended to the Hunyuan Dao. The other 2, Lord Xingmang and Lord Naigu, were fusion Dao cultivators who had spent centuries meditating on world-level Hunyuan bloodlines. Before they escaped the cage, Naigu had comprehended 397 such bloodlines. Xingmang had comprehended 512. But back then, the camp's collection of Hunyuan bloodlines was far smaller than it was now. Yuan's thoughts grew sharper. Luo Feng's retreat site had a million-fold time acceleration, so his rate of comprehension could be astonishing. More reports came at once. Cultivator Luo Feng has comprehended the 100th world-level Hunyuan bloodline. He has comprehended the 159th. Now the 231st. Yuan had been juggling many affairs, but he began to fixate on Luo Feng's data. The speed was staggering, from 43 types to 231 in what amounted to a single epoch inside Yuan's chamber, translating to millions of epochs in real time because of the time acceleration. He did not immediately alarm the other lords. At that moment, their 7 main combat avatars were pinned against 71 ancestor-level existences. The ancestors were numerous, experienced, and well-coordinated, aiming to annihilate one lord's main avatar and force the others to retreat. A contest at that level could drag on for thousands of epochs. Numbers kept climbing. 300, 400, already 513. He surpassed everyone in the cultivator camp for Hunyuan bloodlines before exiting the cage. Yuan felt excitement he hadn't felt in ages. It wasn't just that Luo Feng had overtaken Naigu and Xingmang. Back when they condensed bloodlines, there were far fewer available. What thrilled Yuan most was the sheer velocity. Luo Feng was sweeping through world-level Hunyuan bloodlines, touching their essence one after another. 600, 800, 1,000. Yuan's eyes shone. In less than 10 epochs here, less than 10 million epochs of real time, he's comprehended so many world-level Hunyuan bloodlines. He must have grasped their core. What force could penetrate 1,000 Hunyuan bloodlines? Yuan wondered aloud, then sent a single message to the other 6 lords. Everyone, focus on delaying those progenitors. Buy us time. I have good news. The cultivator camp may soon gain a new lord. The 7 lords convened in the initial land. Lord Jin, Lord Wulan, Lord Minghuang, Lord Naigu, Lord Xingmang, Lord Moman, and Yuan. They were stirred. The camp had been beaten severely by the Eternal Origin Life Camp over recent years, and other powers had been taking advantage. If the Eternal Origin Life Camp completed its offensive, the Cultivator Camp could lose its territory, the soil necessary for cultivators to grow a new lord, and countless cultivator lives could be lost. Luo Feng has already comprehended over 1,000 world-level Hunyuan bloodlines, the 6 lords repeated, stunned. He's only been cultivating for about 1,500 epochs in that accelerated state, right? In real time, just over 1.5 billion epochs, Lord Moman said. That's far too short. It's extremely short, Lord Xingmang agreed softly. When I forced my breakthrough, it took me about 120 trillion epochs of real time. After ages of torment, he had mastered the Hunyuan Dao of time and space. Xingmang, can you observe his future? Lord Jin urged. Quick, see Luo Feng's future trajectories. Xingmang's avatars cast their gaze across timelines. The future is vast and tangled, searching every possibility is exhausting. He hunted for weaknesses among the progenitors and for any chance to fell an ancestor, noted how surrounding forces might move, and tracked the paths of a young cultivator like Luo Feng. After a moment, Xingmang's expression shifted. The other six lords watched him closely. His ability to observe the future was unique in the infinite mixed origin space. Among Hunyuan ancestors, there were those adept in time and space, but none could resurrect or project future selves as quickly as Xingmang. He alone was the observer and recorder of past, present, and future. "What is it?" Lord Jin asked. Xingmang's voice was incredulous. "Many of Luo Feng's future timelines have collapsed and vanished, converging into a single constrained future. His path forward narrows to one possibility, to forcefully break through. I observed over 30 million possible futures for him," Xingmang continued. "In all of them, he attempts to break through with force. He succeeds in more than 20 million. In the rest, he keeps attempting." The six lords absorbed this. The notion that the future could be collapsing and unifying so early was astonishing. "There are countless possibilities in the future," Lord Jin said slowly, "but now his future is already beginning to collapse and converge." "This means reality is locking in," Lord Minghuang said. "He must have touched some highest-level mysteries. He only needs time to integrate them and transform them into the Hunyuan Dao." Wulan murmured, "It took me 50 quadrillion epochs to become a lord after becoming a master of the source world. How much time has he truly spent?" Xingmang's gaze swept the others. "Everyone, Luo Feng's future is collapsing and unifying, and that convergence is already influencing the future of the entire cultivator camp." His counsel carried weight. An existence that could observe countless possibilities had spoken, and his assessment was decisive. "I will set up a formation in Luo Feng's cave dwelling right away," Xingmang said. "We'll mobilize the initial land's power to maintain and even increase the time acceleration in his retreat. From now on, our strategy becomes a delay strategy. Stall the war long enough for Luo Feng to complete his forceful breakthrough. Once he breaks through, the situation may turn." The six lords agreed. The prospect of a new companion and the hope of reversing their fortunes reinvigorated them. Chapter 374, Space-Time Network. At this moment, the 71 ancestors of the Eternal Origin Life Camp and the 7 lords of the Cultivators were locked in a brutal war across the Posen World group. Yet Starlight Lord, one of the 7, had quietly reduced his main combat avatar's energy allocation to only 70%. Each lord's path placed a hard limit on how they could distribute their energy among avatars. In a desperate fight, a main avatar might monopolize 99%, leaving the others with barely a sliver. By holding back energy for many small avatars, Starlight Lord weakened his primary presence, but with his mastery of space-time and the support of his companions, he could still delay the enemy even if he did not seek to annihilate them outright. "Ha ha ha! The source world origin of this source world belongs to me." A vast world-level Hunyuan life drifted beside a source world, and its power seeped in like a spreading storm. An ownerless source world followed its own rules. Not even a god king's intrusion could stop the inflow, and likewise nothing could block the penetrating power of a world-level Hunyuan. From within the source world, beings could not see the colossal entity outside, but the invading Hunyuan power rolled in like a black cloud, swallowing everything. In an instant, all life, land, rivers, even the local space-time were annihilated, complete and utter destruction. The invading power then began to siphon the source world's origin. The source world origin is vast. The world-level Hunyuan felt the origin like an ocean, enormous, and it would take time to drain. At my current rate, it will take about 120 eras to absorb the origin of this source world. For a world-level being, it was trivial to wipe out life, but to exhaust the origin itself would consume ages. Even an ancestor-level being would need considerable time. A phantom descended and congealed into a black-robed youth, an avatar of Starlight Lord. The world-level Hunyuan, busy drawing on the origin, froze when it sensed him. Horror and despair washed over it. This black-robed youth was Xingmang, Starlight Lord, the most feared lord in the Eternal Origin Life Camp, the one who came and went without a trace. If he targeted you, there was almost no hope. Xingmang surveyed the emptied source world and wasted no words. With a thought, he shattered the surrounding space-time like a mirror. The invading body and the space-time it occupied shattered together. Its life core cracked, and it died instantly. Xingmang simply collected the corpse. At the same time, thousands of Xingmang's thought avatars descended across the battlefield. Each wisp of thought could absorb power from multiple layers of space-time, rapidly growing into a potent avatar that slaughtered world-level Hunyuan one after another. Xingmang felt fury in his chest. Instead of trying to capture them, he killed with ruthless speed. A lord could project wisps of thought across limitless distances, but a naked wisp was weak. Even after absorbing some Hunyuan power, it could only handle high-level origin life. To easily slay a perfected world-level Hunyuan, a lord's avatar needed roughly 1/10,000th of their energy reserve. Projecting a thought from far away and waiting for it to absorb enough to reach that fraction could take a full Earth day, even for powerful lords like Jin or Nai Gu. Too slow. Starlight Lord was different. He had once established a space-time network across the 3,600 world clusters of the Cultivator territory. With that net, cultivators could teleport with ease. Xingmang could use it to draw power quickly from surrounding space-time. Although the Posen World Group's net had been destroyed, many past timelines still had intact space-time networks covering those world clusters. By siphoning energy from these nearby past space-time layers in close proximity, his wisps could instantly reach and surpass the 1/10,000th threshold. Greater distances were harder, but this close-range harvesting let him spring into action almost immediately. That was why Starlight Lord led the Seven Lords in territorial defense. Even if his defense only covered the 3,600 world clusters and targeted beings below the ancestor level, his contribution was unmatched. Across the Posen World Group, black-robed youths descended one after another. Against high-level origin life, they waved a hand and captured them. Against world-level Hunyuan, their priority was killing. Capturing took too long. By doing this, Xingmang turned the tide of the lower ranks. In a short time, I've already killed over 3,500 world-level Hunyuan and countless high-level origin life, he reported to his companions. The middle and lower ranks of the Eternal Origin Life Camp are panicking, and their attack pace is slowing. Who could stay calm under such a slaughter? Fear led to retreat, and to only sending weak avatars forward. A world cluster that might once have been conquered in 1,000 or 2,000 eras could now take 100 times longer under Xingmang's threat. The 71 ancestors were furious when they heard he had split his power. How audacious! He dares divide his strength to deal with the small fry while fighting us, they complained. They took comfort in thinking his main force had been weakened and launched an even fiercer assault. Go all out and crush them. The Seven Lords, however, focused on holding. Yuan's vast formation coordinated the Seven, allowing them to withstand the ancestors' siege. Wulan, who mastered the mixed origin material Dao, grew as immense as a source world, bearing most of the pressure. Each lord played to their specialty. Together they made a formidable defensive line. Still, tension ran high. We only need to stall, someone said. Hold on. Back in Initial Land, Luo Feng was cultivating when his cave mansion formation suddenly registered an intrusion. An avatar had entered his quiet room. Who dares trespass in my cave mansion without my permission? He demanded, sending out his own avatar. In the distance stood a middle-aged man with a mark on his brow. I am Xingmang, the man said with a smile. Luo Feng greets Starlight Lord. Luo Feng replied, surprised, and bowed. Xingmang stood there unannounced, an existence beyond ordinary aura. Without the formation's alarm, Luo Feng might never have sensed him. It's rare to comprehend over 1,000 world-level Hunyuan bloodlines, Xingmang observed. With that comprehension, you must be preparing to attempt a forceful breakthrough, yes? Yes, Luo Feng admitted. Junior plans to break through with force. Senior, could you offer guidance? Xingmang smiled ruefully. Breaking through with force cannot really be taught. That path requires patience. He had learned it the hard way. I can help you in one way. I'll greatly increase the time flow rate in your cave mansion's quiet room. Luo Feng's heart leapt. Time was the scarcest resource during such wars. His greatest fear had been the source world of origin continent being breached. With more internal time, he could make progress. Xingmang altered the space-time rules surrounding the cave mansion, linking it to the initial land's energy and stabilizing the new state. I've adjusted the quiet room's time flow to 100 million times, he said. It will remain at that constant rate. It's understood, Luo Feng breathed, grateful. Inside the quiet room, time stretched. Ages passed for his studies, while only a breath moved in the outside world. He continued to comprehend world-level Hunyuan bloodlines one after another, comparing materials, cross-referencing, making steady progress. Unconsciously, he had finished studying all the available world-level bloodlines. Out of 2,729 compatible world-level Hunyuan bloodlines, he had fully comprehended 2,010. Of those, his grasp of the life type was about 83%, and the mixed creation and destruction types about 91%. For the pure destruction types, he had a little over half. Of 995 destruction bloodlines, he'd comprehended 503. Before escaping the cage, only Luo Feng, Xingmang, and Nai Gu had ever temporarily comprehended over 100 world-level Hunyuan bloodlines. A testament to Luo Feng's deep accumulation, especially in creation and destruction, where his accumulation ran deepest. No matter how many bloodlines and ancestor-level materials he absorbed, breakthroughs remained elusive. Still, after countless years of accumulation, one step loomed before him. I can start the next step, Luo Feng thought, eyes burning. He was ready to attempt to create the Mixed Origin Life Extinguishment Tao. Chapter 375, Create the Tao at the Hunyuan level. Inside the quiet room of the cave mansion, Luo Feng sat cross-legged. He swallowed a pill, ate a spiritual fruit, and finally raised a wine gourd to his lips. His soul pulsed with a faint glow, better than it had ever been. He seldom indulged in such things. The pill and fruit alone had cost 80,000 reward points, not to mention the wine. This was his first real attempt to create a Hunyuan Dao, and he needed to be in perfect condition. He already held the form of the Mixed Origin Life Extinguishment Dao in his mind. Now he needed to build the thought structure, piece by piece. The eye of creation and destruction opened between his brows. At his command, mysterious pattern lines began to etch themselves into the void. The patterns were a natural fusion of life and destruction. Their depths felt like elements formed by the world itself. 1 day, 2 days, 100 days, 1,000 days, each count had long since lost meaning. Luo Feng worked methodically, outlining pattern after pattern. He had estimated the work might take 10 epochs. The Hunyuan Dao was vast, on the same plane as ancestor-level diagrams. The number of patterns to draw was astronomical. Each one demanded perfect attention. As he progressed, small construction problems that had been invisible at the start began to surface. Like assembling a precise machine that spanned billions of kilometers, flaws discovered late were the hardest to correct. By the time the huge pattern diagram was complete, 18 epochs had passed. Finally, he let out a breath. The diagram floated before him, immense, profound, ancestor-level in scale. He felt satisfaction. The major framework existed, but he could also see many flaws at a glance. He had learned much. His next move would reveal more. Rather than merely stare at it, Luo Feng decided to form a clone from the diagram. Inside the cage, the mansion's energy was effectively unlimited to the man who lived within. With a thought, energy congealed into a body that boasted an energy reserve of 15 billion times his base, far beyond his original body. Because of its mass, most of that energy could not be precisely controlled. It became a surging sea of blood governed by arrays. The part that could be controlled took humanoid form, its flesh covered in green scales. The human-shaped clone radiated invincibility. He felt equal parts amused and distressed. The first version of the mixed origin diagram had too many faults. He couldn't control most of the body, only a fraction could be used properly, and the rest dissolved into a blood sea. Yet the condensed human portion was undeniably powerful. The green scales shared properties with the Star Tower blood scale. Remaining inside the cage, however, limited him. No matter how vast the primal chaos life-death Tao within grew, it could not free him. Adding profundities to a foundation could grant new capabilities, but could also introduce fatal inconsistencies. Many who tried to augment their primal chaos Tao had only made things worse, like drawing legs onto a snake. Luo Feng's first attempt, though flawed, still surpassed his original body in raw strength. The soul consciousness system, however, had serious problems. He scrapped the design and prepared for a second attempt. This time, he was more careful. He understood now that early patterns would determine everything that followed. 15 epochs later, the second version of the mixed origin life extinguishment Tao was complete. It felt much stronger. Creation and destruction intertwined. Every pattern glowed. A subtle, supreme-level power brushed at his soul, almost within reach. He couldn't detect obvious flaws on the surface. The diagram presented as a single, cohesive whole, an origin-like entity on par with ancestor-level works. Still, Luo Feng knew that proximity to supreme power did not mean success. The cultivator camp's intelligence reports had made one thing clear. When someone truly comprehended the Hunyuan Dao, their life level could instantly surge to the Lord level. He hadn't leapt out of the cage. Close didn't mean done. He formed another clone. This one emerged with scarlet scales, 80 to 90% similar to the Star Tower blood scale. Its presence created an invisible rule domain that could suppress his previous body. The clone's energy reserve reached 19.1 billion times, and, crucially, every bit of that energy was under perfect control. The soul consciousness system fully managed the clone, and the strength of the soul had leapt dramatically. Luo Feng judged that, with this clone, his soul had already touched the world-level Hunyuan stage. The clone's processing speed was several times that of his original body, even after he had consumed numerous treasures. The scarlet scales were nearly indestructible. With a thought, they fused into a blade that cleaved space itself. He believed this clone could stand shoulder to shoulder with a high-level origin life. This second version was almost complete, yet something nagged at him. According to his original plan, his body should have housed billions of origins. There were none. The answer came like a flash. In his quest for flawlessness, he had weakened both life and destruction. He had balanced them too perfectly. That balance had reduced the number of origins within to just 3 in later work, and had shifted his body towards scarlet scale characteristics. He needed to strengthen both extremes, especially life, rather than smooth them into evenness. He kept the second clone. It would be invaluable for trial and would amplify his thinking and control with minimal treasure consumption. For the third attempt, he poured more life and destruction profundities into the core. When the diagram completed, it resonated with the supreme power even more boldly. He formed a third clone. In an instant, a majestic, massive body took shape in the quiet room. This clone cost over 30 billion times the energy reserve to construct. Within it, 3 hidden origins slept, each capable of accumulating 100 billion times energy. He felt the difference immediately. His soul thought processing speed was 10 times that of the second clone. His soul should now be at a normal world-level Hunyuan stage. The physical body was near indestructible. Muscles, bones, and flesh already took on scarlet scale qualities. He imagined if the whole body became like that, he would be effectively undying, a living weapon of terrifying capacity. He felt he stood one step from perfection, one increase in destructive characteristic, and the body would truly become the mixed origin life extinguishment Tao. Then he froze. Something was wrong. Because he had no bloodline contamination, no memory filaments to mislead him, he saw his own mistake clearly. In chasing flawlessness and balance between creation and destruction, he had walked the wrong path. That balance produced strength in some respects, but it was not his Tao. His foundation, the primal chaos death Tao, was inherently life-dominant. A life-dominant foundation could not bear the fruit of perfect balance between creation and destruction. The apparent nearness to the Lord level was an illusion. His Tao was not one of harmony between the two extremes. It demanded a path of extremes, first to the utmost of life. Only by pushing life to its extreme could the Tao mature into what it was meant to be. He had to change course. Chapter 376, World-Class Hunyuan Tianlanke. Beside a dark lake in the initial land, the 7 lords sat cross-legged, exchanging information. The 13 progenitors, led by Emberfire Ancestor, suddenly erupted, Lord Naigu reported. They pinned down Wulan and seriously injured Lord Jin, Ming Huang, and Mo Man. If Yuan's formation hadn't stabilized things, the 7 of us might have had to retreat. Xingmang, with you not fully committing, these progenitors are growing even more reckless. It was dangerous, Wu Lan admitted. His body was formidable, but the progenitors' supreme-level techniques were terrifying. When Emberfire Ancestor burst forth, he, one of the top progenitors in the Eternal Origin life camp and an undying existence in the Eternal Land, instantly swallowed Lord Wu Lan's main combat avatar. Although Wu Lan tore himself free in a single breath, the move broke their coordination. Emberfire Ancestor was ripped apart and yet, with converging flames, immediately reconstituted. The other 12 erupting progenitors and dozens more then heavily struck Lord Jin, Ming Huang, and Mo Man. Were it not for the others' aid, their main combat avatars might have been annihilated. One-on-one, no lord feared any other. But under a siege, a main combat avatar could be torn to pieces. The delaying strategy requires sacrifices, Xingmang said. I must divert power to raid the Skyborn Mixed-Source Life Camp's forces to intimidate the world-level Hunyuan and slow their conquest of the Source World. As for those Ancestor-level threats, based on my observations of the future, as long as we follow Yuan's guidance, we can hold. We might hold once or twice, but what about 10 times or 100? Lord Naigu shook his head. The future you see isn't absolute. We can't put blind faith in it. You're right, Xingmang conceded. Lord Jin frowned. Naigu, your vitality surpasses many progenitors. What are you afraid of? I'm not afraid, Naigu replied. I'm worried the delaying plan will fail. If the 7 of us collapse, those progenitors will be free to strike the Posen world group. It could fall even faster. Xingmang, raise your main combat avatar's power to 90% and use the remaining 10% to raid the world-level Hunyuan. Your killings have scared them. Fewer will dare to recklessly assault the source world. 10% of your power will be enough to deter most. I agree, Moman said. Xingmang smiled. My main combat avatar has already recovered to 90%. Naigu and the others were startled. You were hiding strength even while it was so dangerous? Wulan asked. It only seemed dangerous, Xingmang said. I was waiting for a chance, an opening to strike hard. Let's just hope the 7 of us don't fall, Naigu said. With over 70 progenitors cooperating, the lords were under enormous pressure. Trust Xingmang, Yuan said. Ming Huang and the others turned to Xingmang. Based on your observations of the future, when will Luo Feng break through? Ming Huang asked. Luo Feng, by comprehending those Hunyuan bloodlines, has already touched the profound mysteries of supreme power, Xingmang replied. He is attempting to create a Hunyuan Dao. In only a few dozen epochs, the second Dao he formed has already reached the near Dao level. Near Dao? That's incredibly fast. When I first became master of the Source World, it took 300 billion epochs to reach near Dao, Lord Jin said. I felt the pull of the supreme destructive power and then spent another 5,000 epochs to master the primal destruction way. Once someone reaches near Dao, the path to enlightenment becomes much clearer, another lord observed. Luo Feng's actual cultivation time here is only 1.5 billion epochs. To reach near Dao so quickly, it's likely that in a few billion epochs, at most a few hundred billion, he will attain the Dao. They all grew expectant. According to the cultivator camp's experience, once one can sense the attraction of supreme power, the rest is a matter of steady accumulation. With Luo Feng's talent, it seemed inevitable he would complete the path given enough time. His current immortal abode accelerates time by over 100 million times, Xingmang added. So a new lord could be born in roughly 100 epochs. When that happens, the situation changes. Everyone nodded. The addition of an 8th lord would noticeably increase their overall strength. He cultivates the mixed origin life extinguishment Dao. This path will greatly benefit our cultivator camp, Yuan said, and the others shared his hope. In the infinite mixed origin space, there were many beings who mastered supreme powers. Beyond the eternal origin life camp and the cultivator camp were other factions. The lords had long wished for companions proficient in the life aspect. Luo Feng would be such a one. On the initial land, in the quiet room of an ordinary immortal abode, Tianlang Ke finished refining the world-level Hunyuan bloodline. His comprehension had reached 70%. Refining the essence into his body triggered an evolutionary surge. Frosty white hair sprouted all over him, and he transformed into a colossal beast. But Tianlongqi's immortal abode belonged to a high-level origin life realm, so the chamber's space-time was small. The massive beast filled it instantly. Slightly annoyed, Tianlongqi shifted back to human form. So what if he's a fusion path cultivator? I still became a world-level Hunyuan first, he said with a grin. Luo Feng's presence had pressured Tianlongqi. Fusion path cultivators could rise to world-level Hunyuan quickly. If Luo Feng beat him to the rank, the Dark World Group might fall under Luo Feng's direct command. A world cluster with 2 world-level Hunyuan would be led by whoever broke through first. It was an unwritten rule. Tianlongqi had hoped to command his home world cluster, and now, by surging ahead with an auxiliary treasure, he had succeeded. Becoming a world-level Hunyuan changes everything, Tianlongqi thought as he left the quiet room to await the Lord's summons. He waited, puzzled. Why haven't they called me? By Cultivator Camp protocol, the birth of every world-level Hunyuan was a major event. The territorial lord would summon them, assign a rank, and appoint a world cluster to command. Yet Tianlongqi hadn't been summoned. It's wartime. The lords are likely locked in life-and-death battles with the progenitors and can't handle it now, he reasoned, trying to stay calm. I'll go visit other world-level Hunyuan in the meantime. He wasn't worried about resources. As long as he had truly become world-level before Luo Feng, he believed the Dark World Group would become his to command. Yuan, of course, knew Tianlongqi had broken through. The cultivator territory was divided into 7 major regions. Yuan commanded one that included the Dark World Group. Tianlongqi's ascension would normally be arranged by Yuan, but Yuan wasn't in a hurry. Once Luo Feng becomes a lord, the territories will be redrawn, Yuan thought. The Dark World Group will be his absolute domain. That was a rule among the lords. A lord's birth world cluster was his absolute territory and could not be interfered with. The other world clusters were distributed according to the camp's joint rules. In the lords' minds, the Dark World Group was already tacitly Luo Feng's. On Hunyuan Island, in Luo Feng's immortal abode, quiet room, he sat still. To date, I've attempted to create the Hunyuan path of creation and destruction 38,291,022 times, he murmured. Of those, over 93% felt the pull of the supreme power. It's within reach, but I can't grasp it. 1 billion epochs had slipped by since he began. Each failure cut deeper. Each attempt had been exhausting. Luo Feng had tried every angle, building from the primal chaos life-death Tao, centering on the origin system, focusing on mind and consciousness, trying countless methods over the years. By now, he felt he had exhausted possibilities. Behind him stood 15 Luo Feng avatars. Though subtly different, each radiated a terrifying aura and had touched the threshold of a world-level Hunyuan life form. These 15 were the best of his attempts, his most perfect creations out of more than 38 million tries. Luo Feng could not find a single flaw in them. Chapter 377, Survivability. I admit, I can't find any flaws in these 15 avatars myself. Luo Feng nodded slightly. Then let's move on to the next step. He had heard how long Deputy Palace Master Xingjie had forced his breakthrough by sheer will, so Luo Feng had prepared himself with practically limitless time. His cultivation plan was divided into many stages. The first was to comprehend all Hunyuan bloodlines and materials, the second to construct the path, and the third to practice. I've focused on comprehending the path. No flaws are apparent. The next step is practice. The first stage of practice is to test survivability. His mixed origin life extinguishment Tao centered on life, pursuing a vast body and incredible survivability. Luo Feng wanted to know how these 15 avatars would hold up. His cave dwelling's quiet room contained a vast space-time range, a huge formation unfolded, and all 15 avatars flew inside. These 15 avatars are each at 1/10 of their extreme state, so comparisons will be fair, he thought. If each avatar maintained its absolute extreme state, the burden on his soul consciousness would be unbearable. Lowering them to 1/10 relaxed the soul enough to sustain all 15. Begin by imitating the attacks of Skyborn mixed source life, Luo Feng ordered. Gradually raise the strength, starting from high-level origin life, and make the attacks equal on all 15. Acknowledged. Attack strength will begin at the early high-level origin life level. A gentle voice answered, and deep blue flames erupted within the formation, burning each avatar. With the power of the initial land, maintaining the peak of world-level Hunyuan was possible, though doing so cost a vast number of reward points. The flames shifted suddenly into deep blue frost, an extreme cold penetrating every avatar. Space itself vibrated, and countless spatial blades enveloped them. Various assaults rained down, but the 15 avatars remained unscathed. The power has been raised to the mid-stage of high-level origin life. The voice continued. Now the late stage of high-level origin life. As the power climbed, some avatars showed superficial damage that their super-strong life force instantly healed. Now the early stage of world-level Hunyuan. A wave of fluctuations washed the avatars. From the peak of high-level Hunyuan to early world-level Hunyuan, the change was qualitative. The previously relaxed avatars were suddenly severely injured. Whoosh! The most damaged avatar, covered in silver-white scales, had every scale shattered by the invisible fluctuations. Flesh, skin, and tendons disintegrated, only black gold bones still resisted. The avatar was reduced to a skeleton, and that skeleton still protected over 100 internal origins. As the pressure increased, the skeleton cracked and those origins dissolved one by one. In a few breaths, the skeleton turned to dust and all origins dissipated. Only 14 avatars remained. Avatar number 2 disintegrated first. Luo Feng watched with satisfaction. Its soul consciousness system, its path, is wrong. He hadn't noticed before, but comparing the avatars under attack revealed a major error in number 2. In pursuing an enormous physical body, he had lowered the soul consciousness's command intensity. The result, despite a larger body, the defensive integrity of flesh, blood, tendons, and bones was weaker. A soul consciousness system needs perfect control over every ounce of power and awareness. As the body grows, it demands more from the soul. Avatar number 2's idea had been to relax those demands so a much larger body could be controlled roughly. That rough control made it the first to disintegrate under an equal-level assault. Boom! Along with the formation's fluctuations, icy energies appeared, attempting to freeze Luo Feng's avatars, while the terrifying vibrations sought to tear every thread of their power apart. The remaining avatar's injuries worsened rapidly. Avatar number 9 can't hold on. Luo Feng focused. Number 9 wore dark green scales that were incredibly tough. Under frost, they only cracked slightly, but its internal tendons, bones, and flesh had begun to collapse. Though the surface was strong, the interior was weak. Its origins began to annihilate. For Avatar 9, I used a two-pole parallel idea, Luo Feng reflected. I liked the undying effect of the Star Tower blood scale, so I combined an origin system and a blood scale system as two cores. But the result? Its survivability weakened. Among the 15, it fell second. Time flowed. Under the pressure of early world-level Hunyuan, avatars were annihilated one by one. Of the 15, the 3 avatars using the two-pole parallel approach are gone. That made it clear. Trying to have both cores had made neither strong enough. The power rose, and more avatars disintegrated. The power has been raised to the mid-stage of world-level Hunyuan, the voice said. Now the formation's power was terrifying. An ordinary high-level origin life would be incinerated inside. Even some newly advanced world-level Hunyuan, whose methods weren't perfected, would not last long here. 3 of Luo Feng's avatars still resisted. The previous 12 had disintegrated during the early world-level Hunyuan stage, and his insights into their faults were immense. Boom! Space in the formation warped. Black flames streaked the void, and a poisonous mist corroded the surviving avatar's flesh, tendons, and bones. The situation grew dire. The 3 last standing avatars were number 7, the smallest of the 15, whose entire body was like a weapon; number 12, the largest, whose mass helped it share and resist the attack; and number 11, the second largest. In short, the 2 largest and the smallest had endured the longest. This avatar number 11, Luo Feng was surprised. In pursuit of a vast physical form, I did the same as Avatar 2. I lowered soul consciousness control. 2 was eliminated first, but 11 has lasted this long. Boom! The 3 avatars' bodies collapsed almost simultaneously. The first 2 were completely annihilated without a trace. Avatar 11's physical body was destroyed too, but it left something else: 100,000 origins suspended in formation. Under the pounding attacks, these origins formed a network like a field of stars, jointly resisting. Their defensive power surpassed that of flesh and bone. This Avatar 11, its origin's survivability is greater than its physical bodies? Luo Feng stared, delighted. It was astonishing. Skyborn mixed source life normally have physical bodies far stronger than their life core. Once the body fails, the life core is easily breached. But Avatar 11's 100,000 origins held on. The power continued to climb, thunderbolts smashed down. Some of the 100,000 origins scattered, but many still resisted stubbornly for another 100 breaths. As their numbers thinned, annihilation accelerated until total dissolution. Ha! Outside the formation, Luo Feng laughed with exhilaration. I understand. This 11th avatar's lowering of soul consciousness control was a massive error. It made the body's protective ability worse, but it had a huge advantage. It was the most perfect version created by the Origin Core creation method. When I built the Mixed Origin Life Extinguishment Dao, I'd always treated the Primal Chaos Life-Death Dao as the seed, thinking of path construction like building a house from the foundation upward. That seemed the correct path. But for Avatar 11, I did the opposite. I first built the origin system, then constructed other systems around it, almost ignoring the Primal Chaos Life-Death Dao. Haha, that's the right way. That's what suits me best. Luo Feng understood completely. The ultimate mixed origin life extinguishment Dao had only one true core, the origin core. Everything else should revolve around it. The Primal Chaos Life-Death Dao still birthed my insights and mysteries. It's the seed that enabled comprehension of the 6 major systems, but when constructing the path, rigidly using it as the starting point can be constraining. The path must have a core. The origin is that core. Everything else must orbit it. Begin. Drawing on the lessons of all 15 avatars, both successes and failures, Luo Feng now felt confident in creating a more perfect version of the Mixed Origin Life Extinguishment Dao. He first reconstructed the 3 avatars that had lasted longest, using them to greatly accelerate his mental processing and comprehension. Then he began to lay out the path. Whoosh! A secret pattern traced itself in the void. This time, Luo Feng began by constructing the origin system. Preview. Tomorrow, Lord Luo is about to be born. Chapter 375. The Mixed Origin Life Extinguishment. Dao Luo Feng's origin system was different from the progenitor's life core. The progenitor's life core was innate, something they were born with and refined as they evolved. It contained the mysteries of many Daos, limitless energy, even the soul. If a progenitor's life core shattered, the progenitor perished. Lords had no such fatal weakness, and Luo Feng had no reason to create one for himself. After apprehending the mysteries of origin, he had shaped an origin system tailored to his needs. Luo Feng's origin did not contain a soul. It merely accumulated limitless energy. It had no intrinsic evolutionary capacity and was, essentially, a simplified life core. A single origin was far inferior to a progenitor's life core. But gather hundreds of millions of origin life forces, and the power could surpass many progenitors. Strip away weaknesses, absorb strengths, and grasp the essence, he told himself. With primordial origin as the foundation, the mind as the guide, where creation and destruction mingle, it becomes origin. Hundreds of millions of origins could not evolve by themselves. Luo Feng didn't need them to. A cultivator's power was in comprehending the essence of force. If the Tao was undying, then the Lord who mastered it would be undying. This time he had forged something far more perfect than his previous 15 avatars. He intended to take another step toward the Mixed Origin Life Extinguishment Dao. He had failed tens of millions of times before and did not expect guaranteed success. But every bit of progress brought him closer. Initial land. Brother Tianlong managed to break through from a high-level origin life to a world-level Hunyuan by comprehending his Hunyuan bloodline. That's extraordinary, a horned man spoke excitedly as 3 figures drank and chatted. It was luck, Tianlongqi replied modestly. I happened to find a Hunyuan bloodline that fit me well. Even before a world-level Hunyuan, he remained humble. He knew this might be his limit. Comprehending more than 70% of a world-level Hunyuan bloodline gives Brother Tianlong a deep foundation. He still has hope of reaching world-level Hunyuan perfection, a red-nosed old man praised. Tianlongqi smiled. He had always aimed to comprehend over 70% of the bloodline precisely to leave that slim chance of perfection. Yet he accepted that it might also be his ceiling. Among Fusion Dao cultivators who practiced the bloodline path, only a few, like Nai Gu Lord, had reached lordhood. Tianlang Ke had started from high-level origin life and saw little hope of becoming a lord. Brother Tianlang is the 186th world-level Hunyuan from the bloodline path. The Horned Man noted, "The bloodline path once produced Nai Gu Lord. Maybe we can make another miracle." "Brother Guangyu, your talent is high. You might have a chance." "I have none of those thoughts," the red-nosed man laughed. "I only managed to unlock my bloodline's potential to world-level Hunyuan. As for a lord, I don't dare imagine it." "Nor do I," Tianlang Ke agreed. "Brother Guangyu, you're a fusion Dao cultivator. Your talent exceeds ours." The Horned Man smiled. Before breaking the cage, he had comprehended 5 world-level Hunyuan bloodlines. After reaching world-level Hunyuan, his increased life level let him easily comprehend hundreds more, a common standard among Fusion Dao practitioners. Only the likes of Nai Gu Lord or Star Light Lord, who had comprehended hundreds of world-level Hunyuan bloodlines even in their weak state before breaking the cage, could prove such terrifying comprehension potential. "Brother Tianlang, how long have you been world-level Hunyuan? Has Yuan Lord summoned you yet?" the Horned Man asked. "No," Tianlang Ke admitted, uneasy. "Especially with avatars stationed here in Initial Land for so long, the Lords rarely miss a new world-level Hunyuan's emergence." "The Lords have their own arrangements. We need not worry," the red-nosed old man said with a smile. "We only follow their orders." "Right," the Horned Man relaxed. Tianlang Ke nodded. As a newly promoted world-level Hunyuan, he hadn't yet been assigned and felt anxious. By the dark lake on Hunyuan Island, the 7 lords gathered, waiting for the turning point of the war and for their new ally to appear. Yuan Jin, Wu Lan, Ming Huang, Naigu, Xingmang, and Momon all turned toward Hunyuan Island. "He broke through?" Yuan's eyes sparkled with joy. He had risen from the weakest days of the cultivator camp, when the camp served only as prey to the eternal origin life camp. Each new lord's birth was a moment of rejoicing. Luo Feng's emergence meant the camp had gained another powerful existence. "Beautiful." Jin's silver-scaled face, usually indifferent, shone. It's only been a little over 2.5 billion epochs of actual secluded cultivation time since he was brought here, and he's already broken through. "Xingmang, he's much faster than you." "Faster is better," Xingmang chuckled. "He's still nascent as a lord, but as a lord of the mixed origin life extinguishment Dao, his path makes him more suited for direct combat than I am." Xingmang existed across countless timelines and was invaluable for space-time support and for assassinations. But direct combat required a sufficiently powerful life form and devastating attacks, and a Dao that smashed laws by force. "Breaking laws by force," Wulan sighed, "just like Xingmang did." "Yes, breaking laws by force," Ming Huang, Naigu, and Momon agreed, stirred. As lords, they understood the significance. Most of them first became world-level Hunyuan life forms and then, leveraging that life level's thinking, observation, and comprehension, grasped the Hunyuan Dao. But those who shattered laws through sheer force were weaker lives under the cage who forced comprehension of the supreme Hunyuan Dao. Once they became lords and their life level leapt, their abilities would grow even more. Lords command the essence of supreme power, but there were still differences. Starlight Lord had already taken that step, and Yuan had taken half a step. They expected Luo Feng, who broke laws with force, to do the same. "The Initial Land is special," Naigu Lord said. "Refined and arrayed by us 7 lords and hidden in this space-time, all auras and movements here are concealed. But Luo Feng's avatar in his hometown, if he breaks through there, he'll be discovered. Don't worry, I've locked onto the space-time of Luo Feng's secluded cultivation cave. The moment he fully breaks through, I'll alert him," Xingmang said, and the other lords nodded. "Luo Feng's breakthrough must be kept secret," Yuan insisted. "Only then can the sneak attack succeed." "We must strike the progenitors hard, make them pay dearly," Jin said, eyes cold with killing intent. "This war has cost us greatly. Many world clusters have fallen, countless lives were lost." Ming Huang's eyes flashed gold. "They must suffer. If Luo Feng's birth as a lord were exposed, those progenitors might retreat, or at least prepare mentally, making any ambush far less effective. First, let Luo Feng complete his breakthrough, Yuan said. The seven lords all fixed their sight on the secluded cave chamber atop the peak on Hunyuan Island. Luo Feng had absorbed lessons from his previous 15 avatars. He expected to suffer failure and endure long years of torment while attempting to forge the mixed origin life extinguishment Dao. But this time, when the Dao was about halfway formed, something unexpected occurred. Threads of deep cyan power appeared around the secret pattern diagram. They circled and flowed through the diagram's patterns, and Luo Feng felt that these currents were a highest level power. Dao is power, he realized. He could perceive the process directly. Hunyuan power was the most basic force in infinite mixed origin space. Yet the nascent Dao he was forming attracted that Hunyuan power and reshaped it, transforming it into highest level power. Half of his Dao had already become highest level power. He was on the right path and had completed the most crucial core. One who travels 100 li considers 90 li to be halfway, he muttered to steel himself. At this point, I must press harder. Luo Feng continued to perfect the mixed origin life extinguishment Dao, integrating secret patterns one by one. The massive diagram held cyan, black, and deep cyan patterns. In the outer regions, cyan and black intertwined. Deeper in, the two colors merged, becoming deep cyan patterns that formed origin. With the mind consciousness system completed, the entire diagram glowed faintly golden. With the final step, the physical body system finished and the diagram pulsed a faint bloody light, not unlike the Star Tower blood scales. Boom! A vast, perfect secret pattern diagram manifested. Luo Feng stared at it. This was the culmination of his endless effort, his most perfect Dao. The moment it completed, he felt his life extend through the Dao. In the past, he had relied on avatars to survive. Now the Dao itself had become part of his life. He could exist through the Dao. Where the Dao was, he was. He could project avatars across infinite regions. Though small, these avatars could absorb energy and grow. Finally, I've forged the mixed origin life extinguishment Dao, Luo Feng breathed, emotions surging. The diagram before him shimmered with many colors. With a thought, it dissolved, for the Dao could be manifest or formless. He had succeeded in just over 2.5 billion epochs of actual secluded cultivation time. In the outside world, even less than 2,000 epochs had passed, too short to change the war's situation. The origin continent source world still stood. Luo Feng, congratulations on taking this step, Starlight Lord's voice echoed in Luo Feng's ear. Chapter 379. Lord Luo Feng. Luo Feng had created the mixed origin life extinguishment Dao. Although his life form had not yet fully evolved, the Dao was already a part of his life, and he was no longer the same as before. With his Dao, Luo Feng could sense a space-time fluctuation approaching, a presence that made him feel threatened. In the past, when facing Starlight Lord, Luo Feng couldn't even detect his aura. Now, he clearly felt the threat. Both were now beings on the same level. Luo Feng, you should know that in the recent period, more than 1/6 of our cultivator camp's territory has been lost, Starlight Lord's voice transmitted. Massive source worlds and countless ordinary worlds were breached, innumerable cultivators were extinguished. Every one of our lords wants the Eternal Origin Life Camp to pay a heavy price. How many lives had been lost in more than 1/6 of their territory? Even the lords couldn't tally them. Our 7 lords' main combat avatars are currently battling 73 progenitors, Starlight Lord continued. The outside world does not yet know about the birth of the 8th lord. You must keep it secret. None of your avatars outside the initial land may break through. If they do, some progenitors from the Eternal Origin Life Camp will detect it. The initial land is special. Breaking through here, they won't discover it. As the cultivator camp's last stronghold, the initial land had been painstakingly isolated from prying eyes. I understand. I will keep it secret, Luo Feng replied. The only way to deal serious damage to the progenitors was a hidden blade. If he revealed himself, all the progenitors would be on guard. Luo Feng longed to deliver a heavy blow to them. Break through first. We'll discuss details once you've broken through, Starlight Lord said, and the transmission ended. In the quiet room of the cave dwelling, Luo Feng's avatars dissipated. Numerous energies converged under his spiritual consciousness, drawn to the vast supply of the quiet room. The initial land's energy was enormous. A single breath could provide what a world-level Hunyuan perfected life form needed. Luo Feng devoured it wantonly. Over 90% of the initial land's output was preferentially fed to him, allowing him to absorb freely. Moments later, countless dark green origins floated within the cave dwelling, exactly 1.08 billion of them. These 1.08 billion origins linked together like a stellar array, forming the core of Luo Feng's physical body. Rumble. The power of the initial land surged into those 1.08 billion origins like a tangible torrent. They absorbed without end. With those billions of origins as the nucleus, countless meridians extended outward, dark green veins spreading and growing flesh, golden meridians integrating into every part, and crimson meridians weaving through tendons and bones. A colossal black-clad, black-haired male body began to form. Every inch of the man's skin, fascia, bone, and flesh was permeated by crimson meridians, discoveries Luo Feng had made from the Star Tower's blood scale. The Star Tower blood scale had left a profound mark on him. Luo Feng understood that merely having powerful protective scales on the surface wasn't enough. At the Lord level, attacks were indiscriminate. Internal weakness would be fatal. So he had extracted the Star Tower's mysteries and integrated them into his physical system, creating crimson meridians, a body-wide form of blood scale. These meridians made his blood, tendons, and flesh crimson rather than the dark green that might be expected from his mixed-origin life extinguishment Tao. My skin and fascia are probably only 1/10 as tough as the Star Tower blood scales, not truly undying, he thought. But every part of my body will be this tough. The whole body will have no weak points. The body continued growing, still within the control of my spiritual consciousness system. Grow, grow, keep growing, Luo Feng commanded inwardly. He kept absorbing energy until the colossal physical form coalesced. The cave dwelling's quiet room was far too small. He could barely sit cross-legged without filling the entire space-time of the chamber. He compressed his size, but in essence the physical body kept expanding. In the initial land, the Seven Lords watched his breakthrough closely. He's still absorbing at maximum limit, Hong said, astonished. His current physical body has absorbed more energy than mine. His mixed origin life extinguishment Tao focuses on life, Yuan observed with a smile. It's predictable his body would surpass ours. Only Wulan can match him. Match Wulan? Minghuang shook her head. His size is enormous. Lord Wulan's body was nearly the size of a normal source world. A source world's interior is mostly void, but Wulan's was an immense material body, Lord-level matter, tough and difficult to destroy. Even if 70-odd progenitors attacked him, they would likely only restrain him. They wouldn't waste the effort to destroy such a thing. There were other beings in the infinite mixed origin space with abnormal defenses as well. For instance, the ancestor-level initial, an absolute sphere representing the ultimate of the path of defense. But both Wulan and Initial shared a weakness. They were lackluster at killing. Many of their methods couldn't even touch an enemy effectively. The energy he's absorbed already surpasses mine, Lord Naigu noted. He's about 1/10 of mine, Wulan said, watching from afar. As a super-large material body, Wulan possessed immense energy. Naigu, second among the Seven Lords in size, had only 1/10 of Wulan's reserves. Under the Lord's gaze, Luo Feng kept devouring. He's reached 50% of mine, Wulan muttered, surprised. He's reached 80% of Wulan's, Hong exclaimed. How can he absorb so much? Yuan couldn't help but say, he's already caught up to Wulan. Is he still absorbing? More than Wulan. Quite a bit more, Starlight confirmed. Minghuang laughed. It seems we have another unkillable fellow. Previously, only Wulan dared to boast he could let enemies attack him freely. From the sheer volume of energy Luo Feng absorbed, it was clear he too was extraordinarily resilient. The stronger his self-preservation, the weaker he may be at killing, Lord Moman said with a frown. The others nodded in agreement. Each lord commanded a top-tier Dao and had their own specialities. Wulan's defense, Hong and Moman's killing methods, Yuan's mastery of array formations, which could multiply the Seven Lords' combined strength. His path leans toward life, Yuan said. The path of life has offensive means, but they're ultimately limited. Luo Feng breaks laws with force, Starlight added. He's still a bit immature, but he'll compensate for this in time. Breaking laws with force had great potential. Let's wait for him to break through, study his methods, and then decide how to cooperate, Yuan suggested. He's absorbed too much energy, Hong sighed. He was almost at the bottom among the lords in terms of body energy, only Mo Man had less. Finally stopped. Is it more than 3 times mine? Wulan was surprisingly pleased. With this much energy, enemies will find it very hard to exhaust him. Mo Man, the lord with the least energy, had only 1/30th of Wulan's power, roughly 1% of Luo Feng's. But his killing methods were terrifying. Those progenitors would have a hard time escaping him. Back in the cave dwelling's quiet room, a black-clad, black-haired man relaxed back toward his normal size, and a terrifying domain emanated from him. Just as a source world origin had its supreme rule operations, Luo Feng's body housed a creation and destruction operations system that affected everything within its range. Within the area where even one of his main combat avatars was stationed, world-level Hunyuan life forms would be annihilated under that system. Finally, it's full. Luo Feng felt a deep satisfaction as the 1.08 billion origins inside him settled. Although his physical form was vast, it had reached its limit. The billion origins contained 10 times the energy of his visible body, which explained why he had absorbed so long. If my physical body were fully displayed, it would be about 1/3 the size of my home source world, he calculated. A body 1/3 that size, with every part possessing 1/10 of the toughness of Star Tower blood scales and composed entirely of flesh and blood at that level, would be unimaginably powerful. Every motion would carry endless force, completely broken through. Only with the full evolution of his life form could he truly wield lord-level power. Luo Feng felt that, with his current strength, a single breath could turn a world-level Hunyuan to dust. Luo Feng, these are the Taos of our 7 lords, and the intelligence we've collected on all ancestor-level existences in the infinite mixed origin space. Familiarize yourself with them and quickly create combat methods suited to you. Starlight Lord's voice instructed, and a stream of information flooded him. Luo Feng received it with a thought. He had just become a lord, and soon he would be heading to the battlefield, a war against more than 70 progenitors. Luo Feng felt the weight of that pressure settle over him. The stream of information that poured into Luo Feng's mind contained the sort of common knowledge a lord ought to know. A lord-level cave dwelling had been prepared for him. From the data, he learned the structure, secret chambers, the formation layout, and the entry and exit routes of the initial land. Each lord occupied a massive cave estate, stationed at a formation node. Luo Feng's cave sat on one such node, and his arrival would strengthen the initial land's formation. He swept his thoughts through the initial land and reached out to the other 7 lords. He also brushed past the over 200 world-level Hunyuan, the 80 million or so high-level Hunyuan, and the cultivators trapped in the cage. Only the other 7 lords could sense him. Luo Feng, congratulations on becoming our 8th lord, Senior Yuan said warmly. This war will turn because of you. The fate of the cultivator territory will shift. First, absorb the information and master your combat methods. Then we'll coordinate, Jin urged impatiently. He had been held back too long and was eager to counterattack the Eternal Origin life camp. Brother Luo Feng, your life energy far surpasses mine, Wulan said with relief. He had borne the brunt of their joint attacks in the past. Even with Senior Yuan's formation aid, Wulan could barely block the progenitor's unpredictable, top-tier methods. With Luo Feng added, he'd have a partner to share the defense. Congratulations, Ming Huang said simply. Brother Luo Feng, with you and Wulan here, our camp will have far more leverage against the Eternal Origin life camp. The 2 of you alone can stabilize the situation, Lord Naigu added, newly hopeful. He'd grown tired of the constant danger. Having Wulan's iron defense paired with Luo Feng's vast life energy made the front far steadier. Brother Luo Feng, long have I awaited you, Lord Moman said, joy evident. Everyone wanted a companion well-versed in the path of life. Luo Feng replied to the 7 lords, I'll first study our combat methods. He knew these lords would be his most trusted allies within the infinite mixed origin space, solid pillars defending the cultivator camp. With a single thought, he arrived inside his cave dwelling. It occupied a giant landmass afloat in an ocean within the initial land, taking up about 1% of the territory. The cave contained multiple overlapping layers of space-time. The accumulated layers were larger than a source world. Luo Feng settled cross-legged in the center of that vast space-time and began his study. He had no prior experience fighting at Lord versus Progenitor scale, so he needed to learn everything he could. His thought processing was now vastly faster, and a quick sweep revealed each Lord's Tao, combat methods, and parts of their inheritance. Jin had crafted the primal destruction way, 9 parts destruction to 1 part life. Pure destruction made forming life difficult, so he integrated a sliver of life profoundness. The sky-rending blade Luo Feng now held felt very similar, roughly 9 parts destruction and 1 part life. Holding it, he sensed a distant place saturated with endless destruction aura. Even at his present strength, that place felt immense and unfathomable. Tens of thousands of indestructible weapons were nurtured there, each potentially a Lord-level armament. That place must hold many secrets, Luo Feng thought. He planned to investigate it after the war. Wulan cultivated the Hunyuan Tao of matter, 9 parts matter, 1 part an immeasurable combining principle. Pure matter lacked flexibility. Adding immeasurable profoundness enables matter-energy conversion. If Wulan could integrate more of that immeasurable essence, his methods would be far less clumsy and more adaptable. Luo Feng could access Wulan's Tao record, but he could not fully inherit it. Each Lord's Tao bore its own spiritual will. One could study and draw inspiration, but never completely copy. Minghuang's Tao was Hunyuan Thunder, 8 parts thunder, 2 parts water. Lord Mo Man was unique, the purest extremist among the 8 lords. His Tao was the pure Hunyuan fluctuation Tao. Mo Man's body was essentially fluctuation. He was the smallest in form and had the lowest energy reserve of the 8. He was also the first to reach Source World Master through the path of faith. His voice and presence could force submission, and his pure fluctuation Tao penetrated and accumulated damage within progenitors the longer a fight lasted. Lord Naigu cultivated the Hunyuan bloodline Tao. He had to absorb ancestor-level bloodlines, each one special and hard to master. Each additional ancestor-level bloodline he fully assimilated increased his power incrementally. He could theoretically grow indefinitely. Senior Yuan, however, had comprehended the most Taos in the camp. He assimilated Tao after Tao until he grasped the rule operation system, the primal chaos rule operation Tao, and became a lord. The more Taos he comprehended, the more he integrated into that system and the stronger he became. Aside from Lord Xingmang, Senior Yuan was already significantly stronger than most other lords. Luo Feng realized Naigu and Senior Yuan shared a similar trait. Their paths allowed continuous accumulation and improvement. Naigu, Jin, Wulan, Minghuang, and Moman were at comparable levels. Senior Yuan was a half step above them. Lord Xingmang was a full step beyond Naigu and the rest. Xingmang had been the only one before Luo Feng to break laws with force. Before escaping the cage, as a half-Hunyuan life, he forcefully comprehended the chaotic origin space-time path. Back then his life level was low. He understood void and space well, but his grasp of time was weaker, so his first path was space-dominant, space 9 parts, time 1 part. Later, as a lord, he comprehended a second chaotic origin space-time path that was time-dominant, time 7 parts, space 3 parts. With both paths together, he became terrifying in space-time. He could manifest everywhere and at all times, essentially indestructible. While other lords could have their combat avatars destroyed or be bound, Xingmang could appear from the past or future to avoid assassination. His omnipresence made the cultivator territory far more secure. The Eternal Origin Life Camp had broken through only about 600 world clusters so far because of Xingmang's presence. Many world-level and high-level Hunyuan had died or been injured trying to breach them. Senior Yuan had played a crucial role in the rise of each subsequent lord. Without Senior Yuan's help, without the resources and guidance, how could Xingmang have obtained a world-level Hunyuan servant and break out of the cage? How could Luo Feng himself have accessed the Star Tower and the Hunyuan bloodlines that aided his growth? Senior Yuan's contributions were foundational. Luo Feng found Lord Xingmang's path sympathetic. Before breaking out, Luo Feng's path of creation and destruction had been warped by the Star Tower's blood scale. It had become 7 parts life and 3 parts destruction. As a life form, prioritizing life made sense, but if one wanted to kill enemies, one must prioritize destruction. Luo Feng began to wonder whether he could develop a new Dao, a mixed-origin life extinguishment Dao, primarily destruction-based. He toyed with naming it the Hunyuan Dao of the Blade, but a name was only a label. Creating a new Hunyuan Dao would take untold time and immense effort. He would consider it after the war. Success was far from guaranteed. Even Xingmang's second Dao had taken him ages, and most lords never attained a second Hunyuan Dao. Luo Feng also studied the progenitors he would face. Though the progenitors grew by refining their life cores, that did not make them weak. There were gradations of strength among them. Several were superior to lords in certain domains. He shuddered at the thought of 70-plus progenitors joining forces. Their destructive potential was terrifying. Could they withstand that assault? Having absorbed the other lord's methods and the opponent's tendencies, Luo Feng began to assemble a systematic combat approach based on his own Dao. He would blend what he had learned, his life profundity, the skyrending blade's destruction, and the tactical roles of his allies, into a coherent method to face the coming storm.